Part 261. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2611. He, believe it or not, it's up to you. Adisha started to sell things off, which made Jialin roll her eyes from time to time. Just wait, you stinky Adita, and you're still lying. It won't be long before you can't help but say it yourself. Sure enough, after Jialin deliberately didn't ask, Adisa felt bad. She looked at Jialin several times, but when she saw Jialin, she just brought snacks, ate her own, and didn't share any with Adisa. She finally couldn't hold it back. Jialin, do you want to know? She asked. I don't want to know. Oh, this crispy biscuit is so delicious. Someone can't eat it. Jialin shook her head. Jialin, you really want to know, don't you? You want to know if Adisha can tell you? Adisha came closer. I don't want to know. Isn't Adisha omniscient and omnipotent? Do you think I want to know or not? Jialin smiled. Ugh, Jialin, you are a bad guy. You obviously want to know, but you pretend not to want to know. Adisha almost cried. It's really annoying, Adisha just wants to brag. Besides, what does it mean for you to eat in front of me? Your brother told me not to eat. You still seduce me. I really don't want to know. Okay, just tell me what you want to say. Jialin stopped teasing her. But when Adisha smiled and wanted to exchange her truth for a piece of biscuit, her ears perked up. Then, Adisha pointed outside and said, haha, it just happened that CAO arrived. You want to know if it's right? Let's see it with our own eyes. Adisha's words made Jialin pause. I saw Adisa standing up and walking out. As if it was a habitual action or intentional, she picked up the snack bag placed by Jialin at her feet, picked out a piece of biscuit and put it in her mouth. Her eyes were filled with tears. Smiling into a slit. Okay, you eat it secretly, and I want to follow my brother, Adisha covered Jialin's mouth. Who said I ate it secretly? It's a habit of Adisha. Don't accuse Adisha unjustly. Stop talking and leave quickly. As if she had forgiven Jialin's nonsense, Adisha sighed and continued to lead the way. Jialin was not short of food anyway, but she was a little interested in who the CAO that Adisha was talking about was. So I followed. The two of them walked through the streets and alleys and walked in the marshal's mansion of Nyoda for a long time before arriving outside Jia Yan's office. In the office, several people were already talking to Jia Yan. Jialin couldn't help but be a little surprised, because Jia Yan rarely received guests in person since he gradually let go. In other words, even in the past, he hardly saw guests. It can be seen that the guests coming this time are definitely extraordinary. Your Excellency Jia Yan, on behalf of the Overlord, I come to see you. The grand entrance of Jialin and Adisha did not offend Jia Yan. The few people sitting in front of Jia Yan just looked at Adisha and the others. After realizing this, they stopped saying anything because of them. A change in attitude. People from the Overlord country. Jialin was stunned. Then he looked at Adisha and saw that the little girl had a listen to it yourself expression, so she stopped entangled with Adisha and sat directly in the corner to listen. She still knows something, and knows that in such a situation, she can't make any noise, otherwise it will cause bad things. Oh, do you represent the Overlord? Isn't this my friend from last time? Jia Yan, who was sitting at the head of the office, looked at the other man with meaning. It turned out that the other man was the man who came to negotiate terms with Jia Yan on behalf of the Overlord last time, but this time, he was obviously not the leader. I've met Marshal Yan. The man looked embarrassed, stood up quickly, and saluted Jia Yan respectfully. This time was not that time. The last time he came to the Marshal's mansion to negotiate terms with Jia Yan, he was still full of disdain for the small country. But today, the Xinhe kingdom has attacked the entire world, and there is no evidence or sign to prove that the Xinhe kingdom is unable to succeed, so how can he dare to treat Jia Yan with the same attitude as before? Master Jia Yan, I'm sorry, this gentleman is the leader of the intelligence department of our overlord country stationed in Xinhe country. He doesn't know much about diplomacy, so I will contact you this time. The person whom the man regarded as the leader quickly explained in nice words. Oh? Then who are you? Jia Yan asked calmly. He didn't believe that an ordinary spy could negotiate with himself now. If someone with a low status was sent to contact him again, let alone Jia Yan, he would be unhappy. Those staff officers and heads of the intelligence department who believed in the Black Country, will all think that the hegemonic country is looking down on the Xinhe country. And if you underestimate the current Xinhe kingdom, the results will be quite tragic. The tens of millions of combat troops in the entire Xinhe kingdom are the confidence of these senior officials of the Xinhe kingdom. The man talked about his identity without any pride, because in front of Jia Yan, even if the president of the overlord country came, he would not have the slightest confidence. He stood up respectfully and handed over a business card, which was handed to Jia Yan by the male secretary next to Jia Yan. Oh? You are actually the foreign minister of the overlord country. You are newly appointed. I remember it is not yours. Yes, I am the newly appointed foreign minister of the overlord country. The previous minister was dismissed by the United House of Representatives because he could not handle the relationship with Nobue country well. A foreign minister personally wrote to the Black country, which is somewhat sincere. But it's not enough. Even if your status is pretty good, it's still not enough if you want to talk to me directly. Tell me, what's your purpose of coming? If it's not a very constructive statement, then forgive me for being busy with my affairs. Jia Yan said directly. These words were too direct, making both of them a little embarrassed. But just when Jia Yan was about to say goodbye, the foreign minister stood up and knelt down on one knee. Lord Jia Yan, I know you are busy with your affairs, so I will keep the story short. You said last time that you would accept the surrender of our overlord country. Is this still true now? Our overlord country is willing to surrender. Ah! Immediately after these words were spoken, there was an exclamation. The exclamation did not come from both parties in the discussion, but from Jia Lin, who was sitting aside and did not dare to breathe. There was nothing she could do, she was too shocked. Even though Jia Lin plays crazy with Adisha all day long, she still takes time to pay close attention to the war every day. Although the overlord country was invaded by the Black country and suffered heavy casualties, it was still not at the point of surrender. Of their 100 million troops, there are still 80 million who have not suffered any casualties. Not to mention that they are still capable of fighting. Even if they have miraculous conditions, a Jedi comeback is possible. Unexpectedly, their foreign minister came directly to Xinhe country, secretly contacted Jia Yan, and said he wanted to surrender? This is so shocking, at least Jia Lin feels a little bit out of place. This is a hegemonic country, and everyone on this planet considers it to be the #1 country in the world. How could he give up so easily? Several people present looked at Jia Lin, who was making noise, and saw that the little girl was so ashamed that they quickly sat down. Haha, this must be your Highness Lin, she is as cute as the legend says. The foreign minister smiled and praised Jia Lin, which relieved the embarrassing situation. Jia Yan remained calm and had no intention of blaming Jia Lin. Okay, why did you surrender? My sister must be surprised because she doesn't understand. If you don't understand, I can't take it seriously. Maybe it's some conspiracy of your overlord. At this end, Adisha had already covered her mouth, smiling silently as she looked at Jia Lin, who was sitting down next to her. Then he whispered quietly, Jia Lin, am I very powerful? This is CAO, and the overlord is about to lose. Jia Lin took a deep look at the little kid next to her. This time, she was really shocked by Aditha's ability. Did she already know that the Overlord Congress had come to surrender with such strength? How much computing power does this have? Hashtag send 888 cash red envelopes. Hashtag follow the VX. Official account. Book Friends Base Camp, watch popular masterpieces, and draw 888 cash red envelopes. She couldn't believe that this little brat was really the girl who chased birds in the sky with her every day, caught fish in the sea, and then went with her to various places to cause trouble. They are completely different. You rock. Jialin gave a thumbs up. Edish's nose suddenly turned up. Our overlord is at the end of its tether. The foreign minister said helplessly, and then looked deeply at Jiayan, and then at the little kid Edisha who was sitting next to Jialin, who seemed to be playing with some toy, and said, I must be interested in this. Lord Marshal and Lady Edisha must already know this. Neither Jiayan nor Edisha spoke, as if they acquiesced. In fact, Edisha wanted to speak, but Jiayan stopped her with her eyes. This little brat might make people angry if he opens his mouth, turning a great victory into a small victory. Without saying a word, Edisha picked up the snacks that came from Jialin and stuffed them into her mouth. If Edisha is not allowed to speak, then Edisha will eat. This is not eating secretly, but eating in front of you, bad master. Edisha hasn't been very obedient lately. Jiayan didn't care about her. Whether we know or not is not your business. In short, it's because your overlord has reached the end of its strength and wants to negotiate terms with me, right? Well, you can put it that way. I don't know, does Mr. Jiayan accept our surrender? If he accepts, we will discuss the other conditions below in detail. The foreign secretary did not dare to speak too strongly, but kept asking Jiayan what he meant. Jiayan was silent for a moment. Of course he knows that this overlord is at the end of its tether, but their combat effectiveness is still extremely strong. After all, they still have 80 million troops and 2/3 of the country is in their own hands. If they really want to fight, with the overlord's fairly decent combat effectiveness, it might be able to sustain itself for a long time. The overlord took advantage of this and wanted to negotiate terms with Xinhe country. Tell me, what conditions do you want? Jiayan did not directly state his request, but first asked the other party what conditions he offered. Call. The foreign minister let out a long sigh of relief. Under Jiayan's gaze, he did not collapse directly, which can be considered as his inner strength. After all, this is a master who may be more legendary than a legend. He is just an ordinary person, but he still went deep into the tiger's den and was not defeated by the terrible psychological pressure. This is already a sign of his psychological strength. After listening to Jiayan's words, he stood up and looked at the paper in his hand. Lord Jiayan, the surrender conditions of our overlord country include 3 points in principle, 20 points in detailed rules, and 3,497 points in more detailed rules later. But we won't talk about that much now. I'll just talk about the 3 most basic points. If Mr. Jiayan agrees, how about we send the people below to discuss the subsequent small details in detail? Agree? Jiayan nodded. He knew that these 3 points were the most basic surrender conditions, and other details were all innocuous. Of course, the overlord country also has good combat power, so the conditions stated may be difficult for itself to accept. The specific situation depends on what the other party said. Master Jiayan, the first point is that we need to become an autonomous member of the Xinhe kingdom. Not in the name of the country, but we have considerable autonomy and even partial legislative power. The foreign minister looked at Jiayan as if he wanted to know how Jiayan would react after hearing these conditions. But it is a pity that Jiayan probably wanted to express his opinion after listening to it, so when he went to Shiyuan, he showed no expression at all. The second point is that the people of our overlord country will have the same national treatment as the people of the local Xinyi country in the Xinyi Empire of Weapons, rather than similar treatment to other joining countries. The third point is that former officials of the overlord country give priority to the government system, and no one of us can be arrested for any crime during the war. Even if we have considerable crimes, we will be convicted according to our own laws. After saying these three things, the foreign minister looked at Jia Yan with some surprise. Those are the above three basic principles. If Master Jia Yan agrees, this surrender process will be basically over. The original version will be refreshed in a few minutes, and it will be a few hundred words short. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes, and it will be a few hundred words short. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes, and it will be a few hundred words short. The original version will be refreshed in a few minutes, and it will be a few hundred words short. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes, and it will be a few hundred words short. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes, and it will be a few hundred words short. It's too late. It will take a few minutes to refresh the official version, and there will be a few hundred words missing. It will take a few minutes to refresh the official version, and it will be a few hundred words short. It will take a few minutes to refresh the official version, and it will be a few hundred words short. It will take a few minutes. The genuine version will be refreshed, and the difference will be several hundred words. The genuine version will be refreshed in a few minutes, and it will be several hundred words short. The genuine version will be refreshed in a few minutes, and it will be several hundred words short, a few hundred words difference. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2612. Even the foreign minister of the overlord country was slightly shocked. They came here just to negotiate terms. They had already prepared that Jia Yan would not agree to this matter and would negotiate more terms. But I didn't expect that Jia Yan would directly agree. How can this be? Isn't Marshal Jia Yan of the Xinhe Kingdom the most greedy in the rumors? Many countries want to talk to him, but he is open-mouthed. What? Are you surprised that I agree? Don't be too happy too early. I told you that some details need to be changed. Jia Yan looked at this person with a smile. No, it's normal for Marshal Jia Yan to change the details. I don't think it's strange, ha ha ha. The foreign secretary was somewhat beaming. As important figures in the overlord country, only they know how difficult and desperate the overlord country is now. The seemingly extremely powerful hegemonic country may have never thought that its homeland would be attacked. Therefore, the seemingly huge domestic troops and huge population actually cover up the problem that they cannot do anything at home. Of course, this is also the reason why Edessa deliberately made war plans like this. They cut off the domestic war industrial routes of several overlord countries and blew up key combat steel plants. In this way, in addition to the superficial war data of the entire overlord country, the actual war potential behind them has long been discredited. The country was reduced to rubble. Therefore, Edessa had long expected that the overlord Congress came to discuss surrender recently. Jia Yan was at his desk, smiling calmly, facing the people from the overlord country, but he secretly glanced at Edessa, who was eating secretly, and couldn't help but give this little brat a thumbs up. Without Edessa, Jia Yan himself would never have analyzed the current situation anyway. He might have fought all the way down, leaving no room for maneuver for the overlord country, wasting lives, wasting money, and wasting information in vain. The country currently has the highest national power in the world. So at this point, Edessa has definitely given Jia Yan a lot of help. It's a pity, if only this little kid took this matter more seriously, instead of hiding under the table and eating it secretly like a cat with a painted face. Of course, this is also Edessa's style. Next, Jia Yan discussed several important matters with the overlord. The reason why he agreed to the overlord country is very simple, that is, Jia Yan knows that as long as the overlord country surrenders and uses the governance method of the future Xinhe country to take over from Edessa, even if it has considerable privileges, it will gradually disappear. Moreover, What Jia Yan wants is not the real world to be ruled by himself. It just requires a lot of resources. As long as he gets these resources, he doesn't care whether these countries sincerely surrender. In addition, in other aspects, Jia Yan thinks more comprehensively than Odysseus' thinking mode, that is, Jia Yan believes that as long as he obtains resources, becomes stronger, and shows desperate terrifying strength, he may be even if the overlord country is brave, they don't dare to do anything. It's very simple. The person behind Xinhe Kingdom is Jia Yan, and if Jia Yan can show that he is powerful enough to destroy the country by himself in front of the senior officials here, how can they dare to have any dissent? So he agreed on very simple terms. Treaties, agreements, and various principles don't matter if they are signed. These things are signed, but aren't they meant to be torn apart after they are signed? Thank you, Marshal Jia Yan. Rumors say that Marshal is a difficult person to get along with. It seems that the world's rumors cannot be fully believed. While the foreign minister of the overlord country was speaking, he looked around him intentionally or unintentionally. The spy who had previously negotiated the peace agreement with Jia Yan was already saying in his heart that this kind of matter should be left to professionals like himself. Only if you have it in your hands, otherwise let the people below do it and cause the war to continue to expand. That would be a great sin that will cause people to die. The spy who came last time had an extremely ugly face. You know, Jia Yan's attitude this time is much better than last time. If he had known that he was so easy to talk to, he would have come by himself. Why is he still being looked down upon by the foreign minister? Of course, if he really did it by himself, Jia Yan's attitude might not necessarily be so good given the unpleasant experience he had last time. So there is no if or not in the matter. Jia Yan has now signed the agreement, which is the final answer. Master Jia Yan, look, should you ask the people below to restrain the troops now? From now on, we will all be one country. It is not good for our own people to fight our own people. The foreign minister also thought Jia Yan was really easy to talk to. Hearing this, Jia Yan did not respond, and Odysseus jumped up with her mouth full of oil. No, we will hold a press conference tomorrow, and the agreement will be officially completed only if another document is signed at the press conference. Lady Odysseus is indeed worthy of being the wisest person beside the marshal. Lady Odysseus has given enough consideration. Then I will wait another day. The foreign minister looked at Odysseus. Although he didn't want to admit it, he still had to express his respect for Odysseus and had no choice but to resign. Jia Lin waited until the other party left, then looked at Odysseus in surprise. This was the first time she had seen that Aditya was not only bold when playing with her, but also bold on such a big matter and made her own decisions. What are you looking at? Isn't Odysseus pretty? Odysseus wiped her mouth full of oil and asked in surprise. She thought she finally got Jia Lin's approval, because Jia Lin called her stinky Odysseus every day and said she was not good looking. It's so beautiful. Narcissistic. Jia Lin was stunned for a moment, then returned to her normal state and rolled her eyes at Odysseus. Oh, you look down on Odysseus, Odysseus is so angry. Odysseus snorted, then picked up a document and started approving it, ignoring Jia Lin. Odysseus, you are still thoughtful. This matter really needs to be made public, otherwise the overlord will not recognize it. Although we will not suffer a loss, there will always be some inconvenience in terms of public opinion. When Jia Yan came back from seeing people off, he saw Odysseus sulking and couldn't help but praise her. Master Jia Yan, am I ugly? Odysseus asked this question without thinking. As an older and strong man, Jia Yan is still confident about many things. He was not surprised after hearing this. He looked at Jia Lin and received Jia Lin's helpless smile feedback, and then he knew why Odysseus was like this. No, you are very cute. Jia Yan also smiled, and then stopped worrying about the matter. You two have entered the secret room. Today's goal is to take a step forward. In 2 days, We will go to the stars. Ah. Going in 2 days? Jialin felt like she had heard something unprecedented. Adisha didn't feel much. She dropped her pen and walked into the secret room shaking her head. She didn't forget to stick out her tongue and make a face at Jialin who had made her angry. Jia Yan was not talking nonsense. He really planned to finish the affairs on this planet in the past 2 days, and then go to the stars with Edisha. He has been in this world for long enough. Although it is necessary to get started, he is always calculating the level that the white dolphin can reach. If you sue him too much, then this battle will be unwinnable. So if you can race against time, race against time. For Jia Yan, this is also a big issue related to the improvement of his body strength, and may even be related to his life. The strength of Aditya and the others is not that important, because even if they become stronger, they cannot exceed the venerable level under the laws of life in this world. Even Edisha's current body is the same. In this world, she is a native. If she wants to break through to the level of a venerable, she must wait until she leaves this world. Then Jia Yan will find a way to let her break through the shackles. As for Jialin, this is even more true. I am afraid that it will be difficult for a long time to reach the upper limit of the theoretical upper limit of life in this world, the venerable level. Xiaolin, although you have already mastered the cultivation skills very proficiently, but look at Ai Dandasa, it hasn't been long since she switched to what I teach, but she can already use it in her cultivation, and she is making rapid progress. You have to work hard. Ugh, okay, I understand, brother. In the secret room, Jia Yan once again pointed out what Jialin didn't understand, and then entered the process of devouring a large amount of energy. Jialin helplessly looked at Edisha who was also swallowing up the power, and then looked at herself. She stretched out a pair of palms to absorb the energy as big as a fist. It would take half a day, and she suddenly felt a little discouraged. Jia Yan, forget it. She doesn't want to compete and it's impossible to compete. After all, her brother's mouth was wide open, and energy beams larger than the palm of her hand were swallowed continuously into her mouth. The amount absorbed every second was much more than what she could absorb in half a day. This can't be compared, but it can always be compared with Adisa. But after seeing the behavior of this 5-year-old kid, Edisha became even more discouraged. Because this little girl, imitating Jia Yan, is also devouring, but her mouth is smaller and her devouring power is much less. But no matter how little it was, every second or two was still all the power she had devoured in half a day. This terrifying speed is no longer something she can catch up with. Jialin, who had been praised as a genius outside for a long time, still had a bit of pride and wanted to catch up with Edisha. But now, she can only sit aside and marvel and feel helpless. Adita is so terrifying, and now her strength is unfathomable. What about herself? Do I really have the ability to follow such a brother and Edisha into the stars? She doubted herself deeply. Dear comrade journalists from all over the world, thank you for accepting the invitation to come to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Xinyi. Today, I asked you all to take time out of your busy schedule to come to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and disturb your work. First of all, I would like to express my extreme apologies. Of course, we believe that the Black Country will never be extravagant in its work. Unless there is a big event, it will not everyone is invited to come. On the second day, a massive press conference was held in the current diplomatic department of Xinhe Kingdom, which was also the only one in Xinhe Kingdom and also the strongest in the world. A large number of reporters had already been urgently notified and invited to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Xinhe country. Countless guns and cannons were aimed at the foreign minister above. The foreign minister of the Xinhe Kingdom is probably a more familiar figure to the public than Jia Yan in recent days, because every time there is a major event in the Xinhe Kingdom, it is the foreign minister who comes out to explain and answer. The reporter asked. Every time, his sharp words and clever answering skills endear him to not only the people of the Black Country, but also many people from all over the world. This kind of person has a very strong personality, and you can always feel his unfathomableness when he speaks. But today, when this big man spoke, he was excited, nervous, and even excited. Reporters are all familiar with this top-level figure in the Shinkoku Kingdom's external relations, so they are a little baffled as to why he is acting like this today. But when the senior executive pointed his hand behind him and introduced another heavyweight guest today, the whole place was in a state of excitement. Even the reporters were all dumbfounded, and then suddenly stunned. Because the character he introduced was exactly. An important event will happen today, but before that, let me invite the following adult to appear. Next, it will be this adult's time. When the foreign secretary said the above words, the reporters below were still wondering. Today within the Shinkuro country, the foreign minister can be said to have a very high status. Except for a few senior officials in the Shinkoku country, there is no one who can be called sir. Then who is the adult who is talking about this? Is it the president who the black country claims to be now, but in fact has no real power, the vice president, the commander of a certain military region, or even the one who is rumored to be retiring, but actually goes to a certain front line to live out his military addiction? First Marshal? However, when a figure walked out of the back door of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs following the words of the Foreign Secretary, the whole audience was shocked again. After that, the reporters seemed to be under a restraining spell, their eyes suddenly widened, www.zhaoshuyuan.com. Because this figure has never appeared in the media a few times, but everyone in the world knows him. A legend within a legend. Welcome the great marshal of our country, Jia Yan. It's almost there. Come to the official subscription and it will be refreshed in a few minutes. Please subscribe to the official version. Thank you. Welcome the great marshal of our country, Jia Yan. It's almost there. Come to the official subscription and it will be refreshed in a few minutes. Please subscribe to the official version. Thank you. Welcome the great marshal of our country, Jia Yan. It's almost there. Come to the official subscription and it will be refreshed in a few minutes. Please subscribe to the official version. Thank you. Welcome the great marshal of our country, Jia Yan. It's almost there. Come to the official subscription and it will be refreshed in a few minutes. Please subscribe to the official version. Thank you. Welcome the great marshal of our country, Jia Yan. It's almost there. Come to the official subscription and it will be refreshed in a few minutes. Please subscribe to the official version. Thank you. Welcome the great marshal of our country, Jia Yan. It's almost there. Come to the official subscription and it will be refreshed in a few minutes. Please subscribe to the official version. Thank you. Welcome the great marshal of our country, Jia Yan. It's almost there. Come to the official subscription and it will be refreshed in a few minutes. Please subscribe to the official version. Thank you. Please remember the first domain name of this book. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2613. When Jia Yan officially stood in front of many reporters. It wasn't him who was nervous. Instead, he was watched by a large number of reporters. These people felt themselves being swept by Jia Yan's gaze, and their whole bodies suddenly felt nervous, creepy, and shuddering. He is worthy of being the man who makes the whole world surrender to him. But this tension was relieved a lot after Jia Yan walked out and a small figure with only the height of someone else's belly button appeared. This little figure has short legs. When Jia Yan takes one step, she has to jog for several steps to ensure that she is not pulled down. She has short legs and a stern face, but it makes people laugh. She is none other than Adisha. Hello everyone, this is the first time for many reporter friends to meet me, so let me introduce myself. My name is Jia Yan. I'm Adisha. Adisha followed Jia Yan, her whole body was blocked by the podium, only the tip of her head was exposed, and she shouted loudly. A male secretary immediately picked up Adisha and placed her on the high chair that had been prepared, so that her cute little cheeks could be fully exposed on the stage. Marshal Jia Yan, and the rather mysterious Adisha military advisor beside him. Marshal Jia Yan is indeed as majestic as the rumors say. Chief of Staff Adisa is indeed, as cute as the rumors say. This combination surprised the reporters in the audience. If we put aside the two people's faces that are not consistent with their identities and only talk about their status, it means that this press conference is definitely not a child's play. It is very different from the kind of press conference held by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in ordinary times. Because there is no press conference where Marshal Jia Yan, who is trusted by the Black Country, can come to the scene in person and accept questions from reporters. Of course, even if Jia Yan came in person, it would be impossible for these reporters to ask excessive questions, otherwise whether they would be able to walk out of the scene would be a big problem. I came here in person today just to sign an agreement with the country under your witness. I believe that the signing of this agreement will bring a rare peace to this troubled planet. Jia Yan said indifferently. What the hell, let the planet gain peace. This planet was originally good, but after you came, didn't it cause so many bloody wars? The reporters below were a little indignant at Jia Yan's words, but seeing Jia Yan's majestic and pressured face and the large number of expressionless guards around the scene, they swallowed these complaints in their mouths. They dare not say such treacherous words to the most terrifying person in the world. Even if the information shows that this marshal is just a 16-year-old child, children are also marshals. If they think they can't play with others, then don't ask for trouble. But can you get peace by signing an agreement with a country? So does it mean that finally a country couldn't help it and set an example for the first time to directly surrender to the Black Country? This. All the reporters immediately thought about whether any country would surrender, and then Xinhai country announced the matter in a high-profile manner as an event that would undermine the fighting spirit of the world. So which country will surrender? If it were just a small country, I'm afraid it wouldn't be able to work for Marshal Jia Yan. At least this country would be a medium to large country. Will it be a medium-sized country? Or a large country? If they are medium-sized, there are already many of them, and several names have been listed. These names are all those who have been crumbling recently. If they had not seen that the overlord country was still resisting and provided them with equipment support, they would not have been able to support it long ago. Individual. Their surrender was no surprise at all. However, the surrender of a medium-sized country does not seem to be at a level that allows Marshal Jia Yan of the Xinhai Kingdom to personally accept its surrender. So, a large country? But which large country? No matter which first-class country, it seems that there is no crisis that the Black Country will be destroyed recently. The reporters were a little unsure as to which surrendering country was worthy of Jia Yan personally handling. Maybe it's not surrender. There is no need for medium-sized countries to ask Jia Yan to come forward in person. It seems impossible for large countries to surrender. Two reporters were whispering. Another person jokingly said, "Hey, this Jia Yan came forward in person, maybe from the overlord country, otherwise he would not need to come out in person." Asshole, how could my motherland surrender? If you say that again, be careful not to offend anyone. The reporter who spoke earlier looked furious, causing the latter to shrink back. Who would have known that the person he was talking to was actually a reporter from the overlord country, but it was his fault that he was stupid enough to find someone to chat with. What's so great about the overlord country? Although it's impossible for them to surrender, but look at their record, 100 million soldiers were beaten to only 80 million old, weak, sick, and disabled. Do you still think you are strong? Maybe next time it will be your hegemonic country that surrenders. What a prestige. The reporter who was scolded by the reporter from the overlord country muttered a few words. Turning back, he found that the reporter who said that the overlord country could not surrender was already dumbfounded, as if he had been under a restraining spell, looking at the people walking out of the stage, dumbfounded. The reporter followed his gaze, and then his gaze became dull. Coming. It is the newly appointed foreign minister of the overlord country. As reporters, how could they not understand the high changes in such a big country? Even their appearance and name are engraved in their minds. Oh my God, could it be that the one who surrendered is, really the overlord? Then this matter is a bit big. This reporter is keenly aware that he has witnessed history. Hello everyone, I am the current foreign minister of the overlord country. After arduous discussions, the top leaders of our overlord country finally realized that the purpose of Xinhe country's war with the world is not to rule, but to save, so we, the overlord country, the National Assembly voted to surrender to the Xinhe kingdom. Today, in the presence of all of you, I will sign a surrender agreement with the greatest marshal of the Xinhe kingdom, Marshal Jia Yan, in person. After the agreement is signed, the overlord country will officially surrender its arms, and the name of the overlord country will become the overlord region of Nobue country, and I hope that everyone will continue to support the economic activities of the overlord region in the future. How can this be? The overlord country, the most powerful country in the world, fought the most vigorously with the Xinhe country. The country that you have been fighting with is about to surrender. It's impossible. Dreaming. There was silence in the entire hall. All the reporters, as well as the Xinhaiguo staff who heard these remarks for the first time, were stunned. But this dumbfounded moment quickly turned into a sensation. A large number of reporters quickly picked up their notebooks and filled with excitement, typing words and sending them to the outside world. However, they found that their fingers seemed to be inflexible, and they were shaking all over from typing. This incident is too big. I am very happy to be integrated with the overlord country. From now on, the national treatment of the overlord country will be basically the same as that of the citizens of the Xinhe region. Except for certain restrictions, your economy and production work will not be affected. The influence of the country, welcome your country to officially join the embrace of our faith and black country. Jia Yan laughed and walked over to shake hands with the marshal. Afterwards, the two parties sat down and began to formally sign the document. After signing, they showed the results of their signatures to the reporters' cameras, allowing countless people to capture the words signed by the two people. I have to say that Jia Yan's handwriting is really beautiful. On the other hand, the foreign minister of the overlord country signed crookedly out of excitement. The two were at odds. Wow, that's great. Edisha stood by and applauded with everyone. She really likes this environment, how lively it is. It's a pity that there is nothing to eat. It would be great if there was something to eat. Personnel from the two parties exchanged several more detailed documents, which were handed over and signed by specialized departments. Then the whole process went on in a very nervous but orderly manner on both sides. On the other hand, Jia Yan and Aidisha found reasons to leave after signing the documents. Master, we can go play in the starry sky next. Aditha and Jia Yan left the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and walked on the street with their eyes flashing. It's not about having fun, it's about doing business, okay. Jia Yan rolled his eyes at Adisha. Adisha covered her little mouth. Today she was wearing a very decent and formal dress, which was very different from the normal situation. She looked like a beautiful elf, which made the people passing by couldn't help but look at her. He, it's about doing business. Adisha loves doing business the most. From now on, and in the future, Adisha will stay with her master and do what her master likes to do. She is so happy. Hello. Jia Yan looked back at her. In many cases, these words are spoken by dying people in novels, movies, and television works. Aditha, are you really okay with saying these? But Odysseus said it didn't matter. It would be better if you take more care of her when you are older. In this world, except for the white dolphins, nothing can harm you. It should be more than enough to protect a little girl. Okay, just be prepared and inform Xylan tomorrow that the major events on this planet have been settled and we can set off. Yeah. Now that the big things have settled, let's set off. Odysseus nodded happily, then jumped up and took out her communicator, and started talking on the phone with Jialin, who was staying at the marshal's mansion. The two little girls were like this, fighting and arguing when they were together. But after leaving for a while, I miss each other again, and talking on the phone is like not spending any money on the phone. That's right, it seems like they really don't need phone bills. It's all government expense. Well, Jialin, do you want something to eat? I'll bring it. Odysseus chatted and looked at Jia Yan in front of her, looking a little happy. Puff. Suddenly, an earth-shattering force emerged around Odysseus. What? Jia Yan was stunned for a moment, then he turned his palm towards this person as coldly as ice. The owner of that power is very strong. But Jia Yan far exceeds his intensity. It's just that this man was able to make Jia Yan's body not feel his presence before taking action, which shows that his strength is absolutely earth-shattering. Facts have proved that Jia Yan knew how strong this guy was the moment he fought against him. Venerable level. The highest peak this world can reach. And there should be no venerable level on this planet. It was precisely because Jia Yan understood this that he became a little careless. Puff. Even though that person was at the venerable level, he had no resistance at all against Jia Yan's body, which was also at the venerable level. Similar strength and energy does not mean that the strength of both parties is truly the same. Jia Yan's strength has been tempered for thousands of times at a higher level. In terms of the way he applies his power, his reaction in battle, etc., he is completely different from the ordinary venerable level. So he smashed this guy's body into pieces with one blow. The blood mist exploded. Jia Yan concentrated his attention and knew that this guy was dead. But when he saw Odysseus sitting on the bed, his expression changed and he stepped forward. It hurts, Odysseus, is this the pain? Odysseus was a little angry and clutched her belly. Her stomach was bleeding, and it was a bit serious, like being disemboweled. The little girl had never enjoyed the feeling of being hurt, so she was a little overwhelmed. Well, this is what hurts. Jia Yan rolled his eyes at her, and then said, look, this is the result of saying that you will die. It's a fortune teller even before you die. Don't say it again in the future, you know. Well, Odysseus knows. Odysseus said with a dismayed face. Groan. Before the passers-by around her could scream, Jia Yan had already sent his power into Odysseus' body, then picked up the little one, and his whole body flashed before disappearing from the spot. Be careful next time. No matter how much you say, your strength is almost that of a venerable level person. You can't even withstand a venerable level sneak attack. What a shame. It's a little bit close. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe. Just refresh in 10 minutes. It's a little bit. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe. Just refresh in 10 minutes. It's a little bit close. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe. Just refresh in 10 minutes. It's a little bit close. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe. Just refresh in 10 minutes. A little bit. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe. Just refresh in 10 minutes. A little bit. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe, and refresh in 10 minutes. That's it, a little bit. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe. Just refresh in 10 minutes. A little bit. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe. Just refresh in 10 minutes. A little bit. Come to cheateon.com to subscribe. Just refresh in 10 minutes. Just refresh it a little bit. Come to Kittian Genuine subscription. Just refresh in 10 minutes. A little bit. Come to Kittian Genuine subscription. Refresh in 10 minutes. Almost a little bit. Come to Kittian Genuine subscription. Refresh in 10 minutes. That's okay. That's okay. A little bit. A little bit. just come to cheateon.com to subscribe, just refresh in 10 minutes. Click, come to cheateon.com to subscribe, just refresh in 10 minutes. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2614. Adisha. When I heard about Edis's assassination, the person who felt the most uncomfortable was none other than Jialin, who had been noisy with Edisa all day long but was tired of being together every day. Jialin in this world, because she is still very young, does not have a deep understanding of human relations. But she suddenly reached a position that countless young people in this world could never reach no matter how hard they worked. Instead, she became less peaceful and even a little confused. But under such circumstances, she met Edisa, and both parties could be said to have peculiar temperaments. Unexpectedly, they complemented each other and became best friends. So how could she not feel uncomfortable if her friend's life or death was unclear? It's okay, Adisha will be fine tomorrow. Jia Yan stood beside the bed and said indifferently. Brother, this is Adisha, can't you show some concern? Jia Lin finally shouted out what she said today. In fact, after Jia Yan changed, she always felt that her brother was a little unkind. Now that he was yelling, he saw Jia Yan frown and walk away without saying a word. She also suddenly realized that she seemed to have spoken too harshly. But the words had been spoken and there was no way she could take them back, and she didn't want to take them back either. Jia Lin, don't call me Lord, Marshal Jia Yan. When Edisha was injured, he saved me suddenly and got angry. Otherwise, I might have died. Adisha was a little drowsy and held Jia Lin's hand tightly, her little hands were a little cold. Jia Lin looked at the back of the young man who left in disbelief. She couldn't believe that Jia Yan would care about others, or even get angry because of other people's affairs. You don't understand your brother. Your brother is a very good person. He is the best person in the world. Edisha wants to sleep. See you tomorrow. Okay, then you have a good sleep and I'll see you tomorrow. We must get up and play together. Okay. Jia Lin walked out of Adisa's room with a heavy heart. When she closed the door, she didn't forget to take a closer look at Adisa sleeping on the cartoon bed, looking very worried. You don't have to worry anymore. It'll be fine if I say Adita is fine. Even if she is really dead, I can still bring her back to life. Jia Yan said calmly. Jia Lin wanted to say she didn't believe it, but she couldn't say the words she didn't believe her brother who was so capable. But, can you bring the dead back to life? Is this really possible? Brother, who did it this time? I want to make him look good. I'm so angry. Jia Lin sat opposite Jia Yan, and Jia Yan was a little surprised by this move. Well, he almost forgot that Jia Lin's temperament is very similar to that of the sister outside. She is usually normal. Once something like this happens, her inner boldness and rebelliousness will be revealed. You can tell her temper by looking at her expression of wanting revenge. Jia Yan smiled inexplicably. Jia Lin smiled and felt a little chilled. Brother, why are you laughing? Oh, it's nothing. I just thought of a girl who played an undercover game for her brother and almost got herself involved. Ah. There is such a girl. Can you tell me what exactly it is? Jia Lin was surprised. Jia Yan shook his head. Let's talk next time. Let's first talk about who assassinated Edisha. Good. Jia Lin cheered up when she heard that Jia Yan was actually willing to tell her such serious things. Soon after, Jia Lin left Jia Yan's office. Before leaving, I did not forget to go to the side room where Edisa was lying and take a look at her sleeping body. The wounds on her body were almost healed. After seeing this, Jia Lin left with peace of mind. Not long after leaving the office, Jia Lin raised her head and looked at the blue sky. It turns out that the person who assassinated him was not a master on our planet at all. Let me tell you, how could it be that even my brother couldn't detect it? But, the place we are going to next time happens to be that planet. Well, I will avenge Edish's revenge. My cultivation strength has also improved. Jialin didn't know whether she regarded this as her motivation, so she returned to her bedroom and started exercising. Even if it is a drop in the bucket, it can still be regarded as an opportunity for future success. Jia Yan, on the other hand, experienced a rare moment of stability and calmness in the past half-day or so. The entire Xinhe kingdom was flooded with news of the overlord's surrender. A large number of people took to the streets to celebrate this great day. The media and public figures even went on TV to talk about the greatness of their country, Xinhe kingdom, and at the same time praise Jia Yan. Various deeds of the greatest man in the land of faith. It was lively outside, but Jia Yan didn't feel that much. He has long been accustomed to big scenes, and is used to being sought after and winning. He just looked at the sky, then felt the cheers in the distance, and then felt the presence of Adisha who usually ran around to disturb him, and finally cast his gaze on the sky. This world is using its own unique way to immerse me in it. Thinking of how he felt a little nervous and angry for the first time when Adisa was stabbed today, he laughed to himself. It was clear that there was no warning from the real body, but this body of mine was actually scared. Okay, no matter what, this feud is settled. Starting tomorrow, I have to prepare well for this trip to the starry sky. It's just right that Edisha is injured. She will stay here for a few more days to recuperate and reserve strength. This carelessness told Jia Yan that even the world created by himself and others cannot be completely underestimated. If Jia Yan had been forced to take action just now, although it was unlikely, there was still a chance that the fluctuations in the world caused would be sensed by the white dolphins. If they follow the sense of energy, it will be a big problem. Fighting a war that was caught off guard and unprepared would be a sure defeat for Jia Yan now. Fortunately, this human body is strong enough to cope with that situation. But what if we go to the enemy's base camp? There are likely to be a large number of masters of similar strength there. Am I actually under a little pressure because of such a weakling? It's interesting. Jia Yan smiled, mocking himself so much that he felt like he was back alive. But my body has already reached the venerable level. As long as I devour almost all the remaining power from this planet, I'm afraid I will reach the highest limit of the venerable level. Under such circumstances, except for the white dolphin, someone takes action, otherwise I will have no rivals in this world. Jia Yan knows that the upper limit of strength in this world is locked at the venerable level. No matter how strong they are, they will not be tolerated by the world. After all, Jia Yan and the others' power is not unlimited. It can only be shared by the powerful ones at the venerable level. At half-star level, it might consume enough power of a planet, and it would not be worth the gain at all. Therefore, the laws of the world do not allow the existence of half-stars. And if Jia Yan reaches the limit of the venerable, he will be invincible. Although a supremely powerful person may appear in the local area, his supreme limit and the local supreme limit are definitely not the same concept, right? If the Supreme Master simulated by a senior domain lord has the same strength as an ordinary Supreme Master, then he is a fake senior domain lord. Even if 10 extreme level sages come to attack him, Jia Yan's expression will not change. So, Aditha's injury reminds me to reach the limit of the Lord faster. Otherwise, if I go to that planet like this, is there any chance of an accident? Jia Yan nodded and realized that this was not a bad thing. While waiting for Edisha to recuperate, he devoured the remaining resources that suddenly increased, and he was almost reaching the ultimate level of the venerable. Even if it's a little bit worse when we start, it's not much worse. That way he is destined to be invincible in the world, but if he encounters a master at the extreme level of the venerable, it will probably only be 1 against 3 at most, which is definitely enough, right? Jia Yan was ready. And Jialin, the little girl who is also scheduled to go to other planets with Jia Yan, is also making crazy preparations. It's Adisha. Because this little brat was injured, even when she woke up early the next morning and touched her belly, she found that all the injuries on it were gone. She was also allowed by Jia Yan not to practice combat moves during the recovery period. Something like that. She suddenly went crazy. For 20 hours a day, her milky and silvery laughter could be heard from everywhere in the marshal's mansion. And Jia Yan seemed to owe her a debt. After all, he was injured under his protection, and he seemed a little sorry. So turning a blind eye makes Edisha even crazier. Hey, Edisha, I heard, did you let all the horses out of the stable just now? Jiolin couldn't help but walked out of the training room, pointed at Edissa and roared. Yes, how's Edisha doing? Huh, Jiolin, come and catch me, you can't catch me. Editha was arrogant. Because of Jia Yan's attitude, she seemed to have misunderstood. As long as you are the injured or the patient, your status is the highest. So she was very confident at the moment. If Jiolin dared to scold her, she would hug her belly and cry to see who dared to do anything to her. I'm afraid Adisha has learned a profound lesson in life, which is to act like a spoiled brat. I won't arrest you. You're injured. If the wound worsens, wouldn't I be killing someone? What if you come to me as a ghost in the middle of the night? Jiolin hesitated, suddenly not daring to do anything to Adisha. He. Then Adisha goes to play, and Jiolin eats my fart. Editha disappeared in a flash. Seeing her running around and acting like a monster in the marshal's mansion again, Jiolin helplessly covered her forehead. If it were told to the outside world that this was the resourceful chief of staff Edisha who shocked everyone in the world, no one would believe it. This is not a resourceful person, he is just a naughty kid, okay. Brother, don't you care about Edisha? She's injured a little and it makes her crazy. If you don't pay attention to her, she will stop on her own. Jiolin found Jia Yan and found that her brother really doted on Disha a little too much. Obviously he doesn't seem to be so doting on himself. Jiolin was a little jealous. Xiaolin, how is the progress of your cultivation? Jia Yan sighed bitterly when he saw his sister looking a little indignant. It's clear that when you went crazy with Edissa, you weren't much behind her, but now you actually want to take care of others. This is too much of a double standard. So Jia Yan changed the topic and asked Jiolin about the progress of her cultivation. Well, brother, based on your cultivation skills, I have gradually found the right path. If I were to distinguish by the levels you told me before, I should have reached the peak of the middle level of the earth level. The pinnacle of the mid-level earth level. Jia Yan shook his head, you are still too weak. The peak of the middle level of the earth level cannot be said to be a high master on this planet, let alone in the starry sky. You'd better be promoted to the sky level as soon as possible. Heaven level. Hearing this, Jiolin couldn't help but stick out her tongue. You must know that with heaven level strength, all masters on this planet are fully qualified, and if they reach the peak of heaven level, they will have the strength of about the first-class master. The old sword master at the time had this kind of strength. It's impossible for her to reach the heaven level soon, okay. Okay, anyway, just work hard. I have so much energy here to pour into you. If you still can't break away from the shackles of this local aboriginal, it's forget it, you can go down. Jia Yan talked a little too much, even saying things like local aborigines. Fortunately, she quickly changed her words and asked Jiolin to step back. When Jiolin left, she felt a little suspicious. Native Aboriginal? It seems that when Adisha was playing with herself, she also had several suspicious topics. Jiolin was weird in her heart, but she never imagined that in the eyes of Jia Yan and Adisha, she was just a life that created the world. Of course, they are lives with a unique status in their hearts. It will take another 5 days for Adisha to recover from her injuries. During this period, please and I will help you to help Xiaolin reach the heaven level. Afterwards, Adisha will probably be able to reach the venerable level. She has gained a firm foothold, and this assassination may have allowed her to collect a lot of actual combat data. Next time a similar situation occurs, she will not be so seriously injured again. Jia Yan is relatively satisfied with the current overall situation. Even though Adisha was having fun, every time at night, she would concentrate on studying the battle of strong men, muttering terms that only belonged to her from time to time. Jia Yan believed that with Adisha's mind, the next time she encountered an enemy, her performance would surprise everyone. Because she is different. As for Sister Jialin, bringing her along was purely to repay the sister's dream and wish. It was impossible to really ask her to help. At most, waving the flag and shouting is enough, so reaching heaven level strength is better than nothing. That's all Jia Yan had on his mind. But in his thoughts, he consciously completely forgot about the main event that he had been thinking about, which was the matter of the planet under his feet. Even after the overlord country surrendered, a large number of countries were still stubborn, not to mention that the overlord country did not surrender sincerely, so he ignored these. Instead, with a wave of his hand, countless supply trucks appeared majestically in the overlord country, and then escorted a large amount of resources across the ocean to the Xinhe kingdom. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2615. 5 days. For ordinary people, time is fleeting and fleeting. It was only 5 days, and no one thought it was precious. But these 5 days are still fresh in the minds of the citizens of all major countries on the planet today, and they may remember them for a lifetime. Because these 5 days should be the last days for most countries as citizens of their countries. Following the surrender of the overlord country, he secretly negotiated good terms with Nobue country, and then acted vigorously and resolutely to stage the drama of peaceful surrender all over the world. The entire international situation seemed to be ruined in an instant. The so-called alliance against the Xinhe kingdom is like a balloon. No matter how hard you resisted before, it will burst now. Even the world's strongest hegemon has surrendered. How can other countries have the determination and will to resist? The entire alliance fell apart and dispersed. In the next few days, as if they were afraid of being a step too late for others, they rushed to express their willingness to surrender to Xinhe. Everyone knows. The situation is over. With so many countries on the planet, they cannot defeat the Xinye kingdom together. So when the overlord country, the strongest fighting force, surrenders, the only choice they can make is to surrender. Otherwise, the only thing waiting for them is the ruthless trampling of the Black Nation's cavalry army. Anyone who does not surrender is a fool. Even those monarchy countries seem to have changed their attitude in an instant. It seems that the people who resisted before and wanted to die together also changed their expressions and sent people to the door to say that it was the instigator of the country that had already been destroyed. They fell into the trap, otherwise they would open the door and welcome the invincible army of Nobue Kingdom. As for whether others believe it or not, they don't know, but they believe it anyway. The greatest degree of deception is to deceive yourself. To this, relevant parties in Xinhe country have expressed their utmost understanding and friendly attitude. This is surrender, not negotiation of conditions. No matter how angry Xinhaiguo is, he has given up all the conditions. The only requirement is to preserve the royal bloodline and equivalent status. This minimum. If we refuse the conditions, we can only start the war again. The Xinhe kingdom has long received the request from above, which was personally spoken by Jia Yan. That is, if anyone wants to surrender, no matter what kind of request they make, as long as it is not excessive and does not want to establish a state within a state, all of them will be agreed to. Not to mention the people of other countries, even the people of Xinhe country, plus Jia Yan himself, are a little tired of playing this World War game. Now that it can end, let's end it, otherwise everyone will be tired. Nobunaga may be the first to fall. Accepted. Yes, we accept your country's surrender. What do you think? Looking at your expressions, are you still not satisfied? Do you still want to meet Marshal Yan of our country in person? No, 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 Marshal Yan must be busy with everything these days. How can we disturb Marshal Yan's work? We are happy to accept our surrender. Okay, you can go as you like. Next one is the 22 ND. Yes, we are happy to go, haha. Country number 22, please come in. Surrender as soon as possible. The staff are busy. The national envoy, number 21 in line, walked out of the Xinhai Kingdom's diplomatic department happily. That's right. Today's Xinhai country has to go through a process to surrender. If you declare it outside, it is useless and invalid. You must have envoys to go through the procedures in several departments within Xinhai country. Because there were so many countries coming to handle the surrender business, several departments in the Xinhai kingdom were impatient and set up a lottery and queuing mechanism like normal business. More than 20 countries were processed in one day, and there were more than 200 countries willing to surrender in these days, which meant that it would take more than 10 days to complete. And all the surrendering countries are rushing to be the first. No one is stupid. They know that the later a country surrenders, the more likely it will be listed on the stubborn pillar in the future. I am afraid that the status of the original citizens and the status of those at the top will be affected. Dropped. So they are anxious. Groups of envoys sent by various countries were sitting in the hall waiting, some of them were anxious and even sweating. For numbers above the 22nd, please come back to the lottery tomorrow morning. We can only handle so many today. I am number 23. Do I have to draw again tomorrow? My friend, please be accommodating. If you don't surrender, how will I go back and explain to the people of the country? A man who seemed to have the bearing of a high-ranking person stumbled up and grabbed the staff member's collar, almost tearing his collar. You actually want to do something? Do you know where this is? This is the diplomatic department of Shinkuro country. I'm sorry, I got excited. I didn't mean to do it, but please be accommodating. Yesterday, I was just too short. Please be accommodating. No, seeing as it's not getting dark, we get off work at 5 o'clock. We'll get off work after just one more check-in. Please pray for better luck tomorrow morning. This. Seeing the staff member who conveyed the news leave with his hands behind his back, all the messengers present felt extremely uncomfortable. The staff who conveyed the news in this way were simply a small role in their country. They could crush them to death with just a flip of their palms. But in the Xinhai kingdom, no matter who the people are, they don't care about looking down on them. Especially for people who work in government agencies like this, if they dare to offend, they might be forced to do something about it tomorrow and they won't be able to get in line. What is this? Our great country, the Great Forest Kingdom, is originally a first-rate power. If we want to surrender, we have to wait in line. The stumbling old man clutched his heart and felt extremely uncomfortable. He was an envoy from a large country, the Dalan Kingdom, which had once been able to challenge the overlord country, and in that semi-feudal country, his status was that of a prince, almost one person below 10,000 people. But when I arrived at Xinhai country, I originally wanted to show off, but I didn't expect to ask Jia Yan to see him. He replied that he was unavailable, and also vaguely revealed, "Are you worthy?" the meaning of. Later, he realized his naivete. A small country like Dalan wants to negotiate surrender on an equal footing with Marshal Jia Yan? Thinking too much. Marshal Jia Yan didn't even want to meet people from the overlord country, and now he controlled almost the entire world. Who was he? Just the prince of the Dalan kingdom? After surrendering, he might become an ordinary person. So he did the next best thing and came to line up and surrender. It was just a big blow here. After several days, he could not be queued every time. No one was allowed to bring his entourage through the door. He waited anxiously for the lottery like an ordinary person. This was simply torture for him. This black country is really the country above the country? All the people are the people above the people. This prince realized what it means to be a victorious country and what it means to be a bereaved dog. The envoys around him were all well-known figures, and some of them had even had diplomatic meetings with the prince. But at this time, they were just shaking their heads, watching the prince clutching his chest and stumbling away, and they could only do nothing to help him. To them, everyone is a lost dog, and no one is better off than anyone else. Instead of sympathizing with others, it is better to pray that it will be their turn tomorrow. Poof. Just after thinking about this, the prince who walked out of the door fell down at the gate. Prince. How are you, Prince? The Prince of Xiling State only brought one attendant. This attendant followed the rules quite well and waited at the door for a whole day. But when his own prince showed up, he saw the prince fell down, and he suddenly panicked. He ran forward to rescue him. What are you still looking at? This is my prince from the Dalan kingdom. Call an ambulance to save him quickly. If my prince has an accident, none of you will be able to survive. This follower actually brought his attitude in Dalan kingdom to Xinhe kingdom. The passers-by around him frowned. Even some who took out their phones sneered and quietly put their phones back into their pockets. You shouldn't help such a domineering guy. Prince, right? Let's see if he dies here and there is no one who can't eat and walk around. You call for a taxi quickly, my prince. My prince, please, hurry up, hurry up. As the servant said this, he had already felt the cold attitude of everyone and knew what he had done wrong. This is the country of Xinhe. The strongest in the world. No, it should be said that it is the only country and the only overlord on the next planet. From now on, he, including the prince he is supporting, the prince's family, the royal family, etc., will all be under the control of the Xinhe kingdom. In the capital of such a country, how can he still show off? Isn't that seeking death? So he understood what was wrong with his attitude, and quickly knelt down and kowtowed to everyone around him. I'm sorry. I apologize to you all. Please help us. I'm sorry. Oh. Such an attitude. But it can be saved. Not all the people around me were hard-hearted. Many passers-by took out their cell phones and were ready to hang up. But at the same time, everyone felt a spring breeze blowing on their faces. Those present were stunned for a moment before they saw a cute and delicate little girl standing in the middle of everyone, looking curiously at the old man lying on the ground. Huh. The attendant was stunned. He actually has some strength, otherwise the country would not dare to let the prince come to Xinhe kingdom. Even if Xinhe kingdom does not take action, if someone from other countries with ulterior motives launches a sneak attack, the prince may be in trouble. Therefore, his strength is not first-rate, but close to it. But at this moment, he couldn't feel how this little girl appeared. 5 years old. Still 6 years old. Such a young child actually has such good skills. It is worthy of being the scandalous country of Xinhe, and it is indeed a hidden dragon and a crouching tiger. The little girl's beautiful big eyes blinked. What's wrong with this old man? The ground is very cold. The weather isn't hot now. He may catch a cold. She pointed to the old prince lying on the ground and said. This, my prince is ill by some strange coincidence, the entourage agreed. Wow, are you sick? It's very painful. Let me take a look. The little girl was startled and squatted down quickly. You. The attendant wanted to protect his prince, but unexpectedly, the little girl casually pulled out his palm and pulled it to the side. Sky. What kind of strength is this? Is he really stronger than himself? A 5-year-old girl. The attendant's expression changed drastically. Suddenly, he felt cold air rushing into his mind. No, this must be an assassin, otherwise how could any 5 or 6-year-old child be better than a first-rate master like himself? He quickly tried his best to slap the little girl. Puff. Next, something happened that left him stunned. I saw that I was holding a palm with all my strength, and it was held by the little girl's hand. Can't move. What power this must have. I'm saving people, I want to play for a while. The little girl seemed to be quite speechless at this playful adult. She shook him off and threw the entourage away, unable to resist. The little girl shook off his hand, caught the old man's head that was about to hit the ground, and observed it carefully. Ah, assassin. An assassin wants to kill my prince. The follower stumbled and was thrown aside, and then he suddenly shouted at the people around him. He knew that with his own abilities, he might not be able to stop such a terrifying little girl. Only by letting the people of the Xinhe kingdom take action could he have a chance of survival. Unexpectedly, he was met with angry and sarcastic looks from everyone around him. You gringo, do you know who this is? Assassin? I think you are the assassin. It would be an honor for the damn prince of your family if Lady Edisha herself becomes an assassin. Is he not worthy at all? The disdainful words of several passers-by made the attendant's expression change. Then take a closer look at the cute little girl who is carefully observing her prince. Huh? It's her. Afterwards, the servant's expression changed completely, and he even started to tremble. As an envoy to the Black Country, how could he not recognize the important figures in this country who have appeared in the media? Especially that Marshal Yan, and beside Marshal Yan, Chief of Staff Edissa, who was almost recognized as the strongest child prodigy in the world, he almost imprinted the faces of these two people in his mind. Because when you come to Xinhe Junior High School, there may be a slight improvement if you offend anyone, but there is no chance of any improvement if you offend these two people and Marshal Iwa's sister. How could I be so stupid? He should have recognized Chief of Staff Edissa the moment she appeared. If you want to blame it, it's because you and the prince have suffered too much here. They think that Marshal Yan and Edisha are high-ranking figures, and it is generally impossible to bump into them. Wow, this person is having a heart attack. He is going to die. He, this is the first time Edisha has seen a patient with a heart attack. His heart is beating wildly and bouncing. Edisha casually let go of the old man she was holding, letting his head fall freely to the ground. Edisha thought that people who were about to die should not be hugged. They were going to die anyway. Ah! Are you going to die? My prince is going to die here? This. The attendant was stunned. Please remember the first domain name of this book. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2616. Please call an ambulance quickly. My prince cannot die in a place like this. Please, Lady Edisha. After the attendant was stunned, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed. This was the first time that Edissa was kowtowed to. Her eyes widened with curiosity. Wow, is this being kneeled down by someone? It's so fun, she said in surprise. The attendants felt a little angry as they listened. You little brat, why are you talking? What fun is there in being kneeled on your knees? What's more, this is your attitude to express your true feelings. You should treat it as fun. If you have this intention, why not save my prince? He wasn't really that loyal to the prince. But because if the prince is left to sleep here, he will be miserable when he looks back. The royal family over there will never give him good luck. Even if they surrender, the surrendered royal family will definitely have considerable energy. These terms are included in the conditions agreed by Xinhe Kingdom. So he didn't dare. If a person with such power as the prince died in Xinhe country would definitely be fine, but he would definitely be unlucky. Lady Edisha, please save my prince. He has done his best to make our country surrender and he hasn't slept recently. The attendant seemed to have come up with a plan, which was to pass the blame to Edissa. As a high-level person in the Xinhe kingdom, Edisha appeared here and even rescued the prince. If she failed to save the prince, even if someone blamed her, they would blame Edisha. Of course, no matter how bold the royal family is, they would not dare to deal with Lady Edissa, so as a person with the same responsibility, he should be punished much less. Yeah, well, Editha saves people. Editha is the most powerful. Editha raised her fists and shouted loudly. Let's go to the marshal's mansion. Edisha took the old man's wrist with one hand and pulled him limply up to the sky. Okay, I'll go with you. The attendant nodded excitedly. Going to the marshal's mansion? That would be even better. If the matter of rescuing people has something to do with the marshal's mansion, then even if the person dies, the doctor will have even less to do with him. He is now afraid that if the matter is not big enough, all the responsibility will fall on him. If the matter is big enough, maybe he will not be held responsible at all. Moreover, if he really went to the marshal's mansion and met Marshal Jiayan, then he might not have any responsibility and might even be praised by his superiors. Because it is quite cost-effective to exchange the order of an old prince for a personal interview with Marshal Jiayan. Maybe because of this meeting, the two parties will then match up and make the future under the rule of Xinhe Kingdom. The royal family gets more privileges. The followers are also powerful men, and the inner Xiaojiju is not as simple as the servility shown on the surface. He, it's so funny how this old man is about to die. Flying in the sky, Edisha looked at the old man holding her hand, laughing and covering her mouth. It's so fun to look like you're about to die. Oh my god. Is this also fun? The entourage looked at the old prince who was being held by the wrist by Edisha and then hanging in the sky like a dead pig. His hat had fallen off and only a few white hairs were left. It was really funny. He just didn't dare to laugh. That's the big stall market in our capital over there. It's so fun inside. I often take Jialin there to play, and many people give us snacks. Edisha pointed to the many iconic locations below and introduced them to the attendant. These were the few strong friends she knew, and Edisha cherished them very much. In other words, it was her childish nature that cherished her. Oh, that's awesome. The attendant nodded mechanically. But my heart was shouting, girl, can you hurry up? People are going to freeze. But at the same time, he understood a very important piece of information from Edisha's words and the way she appeared just now. That is, this well-known smart multi-star child who is famous all over the world can actually act at will in the capital of the Xinhe Kingdom. And it seems that the civilians all know her identity, but they don't treat her too uniquely. Is this the little child prodigy who is the chief of staff of the entire Xinhe Kingdom, one person below 10,000 people? This is just like an ordinary naughty child. Oh, it's a pity. Edisha was assassinated before. Later, my adults stopped letting Edisha go out more. They didn't know about little black, little white, little green, and little purple in the market. Xiaohong. Editha read the names, and with her strong memory, she remembered everyone's names. The name was chanted from the moment it was chanted until the two of them entered the sky above the marshal's mansion and were about to land, but they had not finished chanting it yet. These are the people, I don't know how they are doing now. Edisha shook her head, as if very distressed. You have so many friends. The attendant nodded with a smile and praised him. Edisha puffed up her little chest and nodded vigorously, yes, Adisha has many friends, and the people in this Marshal's mansion are all friends of Adisha, including Marshal Jiayan, Jialin, Ma Shat, Fulang Ge, Duolai, Pippin. Okay. The entourage all wanted to slap themselves in the face. If you're fine, why go ask her about her friends? This Marshal's mansion is said to have a population of several hundred. It would take a long time to talk about it. Fortunately, Adisha only read about a few dozen people before she stopped speaking because she had landed. And 11, I will bring someone back to rescue you. Hey, Miss Aditha, you even picked up people today. In the past, you only picked up kittens and puppies. The ant I saw after landing seemed to be quite familiar with Adisha. Has Adisha grown up? Adisha puffed up her small breasts proudly. But no matter how strong it is, nothing will happen. Yes, Lady Adisha has grown up and is very powerful. Adisha is very powerful. I want to take him to see Marshal Jiayan and ask him to save him. Hey, this is not good, Adisha-sama. After hearing what Adisha said, Auntie 11 thought it was nothing. But when Adisha wanted to take people to see the Marshal, her expression changed. What kind of person is the Marshal? He is not as high status as Adisha, but he has the charisma of a child all day long. What if he brings a patient there and makes the Marshal unhappy? No one would be happy, seeing a dying person suddenly for no reason. But before she could finish her words, Adisha had already asked her entourage to pick up the prince, and then ran away like a gust of wind. Oh, why is this like this? I have to hurry up and ask the people in front to stop me. If it doesn't work, I have to ask the people in front to inform Marshal Jiayan. Otherwise, the Marshal will definitely not be happy if he suddenly sees a dead man. And 11 panicked. Normally, this little Adisha, although quite naughty in appearance, would hardly affect Marshal Jiayan. Everyone discovered that this little Adisha looked like a bear, but she also acted in a measured way. She would not do anything that would affect others or make people feel resentful. But today, you did something stupid. Of course, if these people were Jiayan, they would not have similar thoughts. Because Jiayan knew full well that Adisha's so-called naughty child was just a physique that came with the infancy of life, and Adisha did not deliberately hide it. But despite this naughty child's behavior, Adisha is still grasping the overall situation, that is, although she is naughty, many things are not unreasonable. Especially when it comes to things like rescuing people, if she doesn't think it's meaningful, she will never do it. For example, this prince seems to be dead soon, and he is still a prince who will surrender to the Xinhe kingdom. His status in the future will be much lower than before. But as long as the planning is good, the future will definitely be good for Xinhaiguo. After all, this person has a high status. Not here yet. The followers were stunned. I have known for a long time that the Marshal's mansion of Xinhe kingdom is huge. But along the way, he was confused. It was not only big, it covered the entire mountain, and it also occupied a large area. It was empty for hundreds of people. Here, no one lived here before. Marshal Jiayan bought them all. From now on, it has become a very prosperous place, and it is worth a lot of money if sold. Aditha laughed. Marshal Yan is indeed a strategist, and he is also so good at investing, the entourage responded casually. Isn't that good? You are very stupid. This place has become prosperous because of Marshal Jiayan's presence. Do you understand? Aditha said abruptly to him. The man suddenly understood and nodded repeatedly. Yes, Lady Adisha taught you right. This is Marshal Yan. Even if the Marshal builds the Marshal's mansion in the mountains, that deep mountain area is probably one of the few big cities now. That's impossible. Judging from the city's infrastructure, construction speed and investment, this kind of thing is impossible. Adisha shook her head and actually started talking about infrastructure information and a lot of data. Oh my God. What kind of little brat is this? I'm tired of talking to her. However, he seems to be a real genius. Just tell me whatever data and principles you want, don't be too aggressive. Could it be that with such a wise man, it would be difficult for Xinhe to lose? Of course, there is another more important factor. Here we are. Adisha walked outside a seemingly ordinary office building and jumped over to open the door. Another important factor is inside this house. The attendant swallowed hard. When he came to Xinhe country, he had already thought about whether he would one day meet with Marshal Jiayan, but the closer he got to Xinhe country, the more nervous he became. Later, when he knew that he and others could not even see Marshal Jiayan's face, he felt a little relaxed and a little regretful. Such a hero, not being able to see him is definitely a loss in his life. But unexpectedly, things turned out to be hopeless, but when the prince's life was hanging by a thread, there was another big turn for the better. I was brought to the marshal's office building in the marshal's mansion by Lady Edisha. Thinking of the man who made all the countries in the world tremble and could only kneel in worship, in this house, his nervousness emerged again and could not be suppressed. I'm back. Sir, how are you doing today? Edisha opened the door and ignored the guard standing by the door, who was at least a top-notch expert. However, when the entourage passed by these two men, they felt that these two men were stronger than themselves, and they quickly nodded and bowed, breaking out in a cold sweat. The Marshal of Xinhe Kingdom is different. Even the gatekeeper is stronger than him. What would it be like to see such a terrifying person in real life? I hope it's not as disappointing as the legendary Lady Edisha. Buzz. While he was thinking this, he followed Edisha around twice and entered a large office. Afterwards, he felt a sudden shock all over his body and his heart tightened. I saw a man sitting quietly on the office chair, his indifferent eyes staring at himself and the prince he was holding in his arms. Is it him? Edisha, don't bring anyone home. Jia Yan said calmly. Although these words were not addressed to this follower, they were as deafening as a bolt from the blue in his ears. He stumbled a few steps, and then barely managed to avoid falling. So strong. Exactly as imagined. No, it should even be said that seeing is worth hearing 100 times. Marshal Yan's figure and momentum are even more chilling than the rumors. This follower, who was almost a first-rate master, felt restrained after seeing Jia Yan's face. He didn't even dare to take a big breath. Edisha, on the other hand, took off her shoes before entering the office and jumped around the office with her bare feet. She had already told Jia Yan about this so-called prince. Jia Yan stood up. The entourage was stiff, looking at this man who was not very majestic but looked like a mountain, gradually approaching him. Put the person on the ground and let me take a look. Jia Yan said calmly. Yes. The attendant was frightened and smashed the prince's body down. Clang. Well, being hit by Edisha just now was not enough, and now he was hit on the back of the head by an entourage. The prince, who originally still had breath, seemed to be twitching and became breathless. Jia Yan looked at the follower quietly. To murder the master? This follower can do it and is very courageous. Jia Yan's indifferent gaze made the attendant almost kneel down. He was really afraid. If Jia Yan told the story, he would be in serious trouble regardless of whether the prince could be saved or not. But fortunately, Marshal Jia Yan, who is busy with everything, probably won't care about such a trivial matter. I'm out of breath. Jia Yan didn't even squat down, he just looked at it and said calmly. Ah. Although the entourage had known about this for a long time, he still couldn't help but shake his whole body. He felt like the world was spinning. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2617. Even Marshal Yan, who was probably the strongest in the world, said this, indicating that the prince was definitely hopeless. Then I will take the prince away. Thank you, Marshal Yan. He said bitterly. Wait, who asked you to leave? I said he was out of breath, but I didn't say he couldn't be saved. Suddenly, the attendant seemed to hear the most beautiful response in the world. Even though this response seemed a bit unfriendly, he didn't care much about it. Can my prince be saved? Poof. Using the old trick again, this follower of a near first-class master knelt down in front of Jia Yan. And he kept banging his head. Master Marshal, please take action to save my prince. Please have mercy, Master Marshal. Jia Yan shook his head, kneeled down at every turn. It seems that the destruction of the Dalan kingdom is not unjust. For a country with such a feudal society to not perish is too anti-human. The entourage didn't understand what the so-called feudal country meant. In short, what the marshal said was definitely true. He didn't even dare to ask, he just knelt on the ground, bowed his head, and looked like he would kneel for a long time if Jia Yan didn't take action. Humph, it's an ignorant approach, but I will save the Prince of Dalan Kingdom. He is a guest. Jia Yan swept his sleeves. Then the dignified, nearly first-class expert seemed to have encountered a terrifying huge air current, and his whole body was swept up. After the whistling sound, he floated directly out of the office, stumbling awkwardly, and stood beside the two guards. Prince. He was horrified and at the same time wanted to take a step forward, but saw the two guards stretching out their arms. Your Excellency, our marshal has said to take action, then it will be fine. If you break in again, we will treat you as an intruder. Two first-class masters stood in front of him, and they were at a disadvantage in terms of momentum and numbers. The follower let out a long sigh, and could no longer continue to fight foolishly. Besides, this is the mansion of Marshal Jia Yan of the Xinhe Kingdom, and inside it is the earth-shattering Marshal Jia Yan, who is known as the absolute strongest man in the world. Even if he breaks in, what's the use? He. There was laughter all around. The attendant looked back and saw that Edisha, who was still in the office just now, had appeared next to him out of nowhere, startling him. He was already numb. After arriving in the Xinhe Kingdom, he looked like a top-notch master, but he acted like an ordinary master. Even a 5-year-old child was better than him, and he didn't know it when he walked around. These decades or hundreds of years of practice have been applied to dogs. Don't be upset. My Marshal Jia Yan is very powerful. Otherwise, in order to relieve the tension, can I play with you? Editha's natural love for making friends emerged again, and she pulled the attendant outside. But before that, I want to introduce another friend to you. Her name is Jialin. Jialin hasn't played with me these days. She said she wanted to practice. She also said I was injured and didn't want to make me angry. Don't worry. Now that you are here, she will definitely play with us. No. If you want to play, what does it have to do with me? The commander's face was ugly, but not only did he not dare to break free from Edisha's pull, but even if he wanted to, he probably wouldn't be able to break free. What is this thing called? Not to mention that Addis took this new friend with her and went to find Jialin, who had been working too hard recently. Just talking about this, Jia Yan looked at the prince, who was already lying in the corpse, with a slightly weird look on his face. In fact, he is already dead. This kind of disease requires treatment as soon as possible, but he was sent too late. Jia Yan looked at his body that was gradually hardening, but he didn't look like he was giving up. It just so happens that I try the most interesting experiment set up in this world. Hell. He closed his eyes. That's right, it's the underworld. When Jia Yan asked Edisha to implement the world plan with White Dolphin and others, he secretly asked them to modify many details. For example, he added his own power to the world, accounting for about 5% of the world's background. In addition, he also made the race in this world no longer just monsters designed by White Dolphin, but a large number of humans. Even the monsters, many have human attributes, such as demi-humans. But these are only small details, modifications to the basic background of the entire big world. He did not touch any settings of the world's basic energy and physical laws, otherwise it would be easy to be discovered by the white dolphins. Only one thing is the biggest change he made. This is also a change that is difficult for White Dolphin and the others to detect. That is the underworld. The so-called underworld may be quite similar to what everyone understands, which is the place where dead people or certain species go after death. Originally, in this world, dead animals, characters, etc., were set to return to dust after death. There was no such thing as hell or heaven. But Jia Yan changed the details. Although most of the deaths will enter the void and return to the world as strength. But some parts will enter the underworld in the form of energy. That's right. I just happened to go and see how the thing I designed is doing now. Jia Yan closed his eyes, and the power in his body seemed to have left his body and flowed out to the outside world. At the same time, in the background of the big world, Jia Yan's body also released power, echoing this free power. Because the place he was going to was not a place that White Dolphin and the others knew, even if there was a slight leak of his body's power, it would be difficult for them to detect it. With the power of his body, even if there is only a trace of it, the free strength of Marshal Jia Yan's body is like a shot of chicken blood, suddenly hitting the air. He felt that these power bodies of his had crashed into some kind of glass-like barrier. Those who understand will understand, but those who don't understand will not be able to break into this world of glass no matter how hard they bump into it. Is this the underworld? Sure enough, the power is quite weak and shaky. After all, the power I can steal from the background of the big world is not much. After Jia Yan entered this world, he walked straight forward. He was sensing the weak forces around him and wanted to find the power behind the death of the old man. As long as he finds this power, he can bring the power back to his body, and then apply rescue methods, and the person can be saved. Of course, it is easy to say, but it is still quite difficult to do. Oh! Haha, the computer actually calculated such a place by itself. After Jia Yan crashed into this space, he thought that this place was just a gathering place of all kinds of empty afterlife energy. Unexpectedly, after flying for a moment, he found that a huge continent, as well as the shadows of buildings and other things appeared in front of him. This must be because the computer has such a world and gradually calculates such a space according to various laws. Then, the underworld really becomes a real underworld, with continents, buildings, and maybe a world of the dead. Entering this continent floating in the void, Jia Yan felt strange. Because he felt the size of this continent, it was quite big, as big as an outside planet continent, and what was here was all the soul power of this planet, excluding other dead souls from the outside world. It means that this underworld is probably bigger than he imagined. There are too many, they are all human beings, oh no, I should say, they are all the soul power after death. Jia Yan flew into the mainland, and no one noticed his current movements. After all, his strength is one thing, and the other is that before entering the underworld, his true body spit out a mouthful of power in the outside world. Just such a mouthful of power is enough for Jia Yan to punch through the outer planet with one blow. With such terrifying power, how could he be sensed by the extremely weak energy body in the underworld? Tread. Jia Yan paused in the antique environment. There are cities all around, but the cities on this planet originally looked like hundreds of years ago. People were coming and going on the street. Some people died miserably, while others looked like normal people and seemed to have died quite peacefully. But no matter how they died or what their appearance was, they all lived an ordinary life peacefully. The energy is very weak, and that's right. It's impossible to practice in a place with such weak energy. Even if you can practice, I'm afraid it won't be something that ordinary undead can do. Jia Yan knows that no matter what form it takes, as long as it is a living body and has a social group, it is destined to have ordinary people and superior beings. The person in front of me should be an ordinary person. Oh no, it's an ordinary soul. These soul-like bodies come and go on the streets, going about their daily lives. The reason why they are busy is to gain power. Without power, they will not be able to nourish their souls and bodies. They will eventually disappear into the underworld and become the most basic particles of the entire world. Well, this is a good design. Jia Yan looked at the scene in front of him indifferently. He landed on the ground and walked forward. While checking whether there was any whereabouts of the old prince around, he looked forward to observe the appearance of this underworld. Outside the city, there are large tracts of jungle, but because of the existence of energy, there are also many souls living a wild life in the mountains and forests. They are diligently searching for the free power in the continent. They don't need to eat. The only meaning and pleasure of their existence is to find this power and then swallow it into their mouths. However, where there are people, there will be rivers and lakes. The soul is not a person, but it is still a person in life. When the level stage appears, various things will happen. The kind of souls wandering in the wild don't matter. They are savage-like existences. Their income and existence depend on the sky. If they can eat, they can live for one day. If the harvest is not good, one day they suddenly turn into particles. In the city, if you can obtain more stable energy, you have to become a pawn or even a slave of a big force. Over there, there's a new person born over there, haha, go over and catch him. As long as you find a new person, I can sell him 10 days of rations. Go away, that new guy is mine. As long as we catch him and sell him to the Chamber of Commerce, we can live longer. Groups of souls ran like crazy on the street as if they had seen the perfect prey. Jia Yan watched them leave indifferently, chewing on their words, then smiled and followed the footsteps. In the distance, an old man appeared in the land with his mouth open, and another child with blood flowing from his stomach appeared beside him. Woo, where is this, Mom and Dad? I want Mom and Dad. The child, who was only about 3 or 4 years old, was holding his stomach and shouting loudly. I don't know where this is, but little friend, follow me closely. Whenever you meet someone, I will ask why. The old man's face was ugly, but he still remained quite calm. As a prince, he has experienced too many hardships and obstacles in his life, and after having been in a high position for a long time, he naturally has a certain magnanimity. Okay, Grandpa, hold the baby's hand. The child stretched out his hand to hold the old man's finger. After hesitating for a moment, the old man let him hold his finger. Because of this move, the old man made a decision: even if he had to pay some price, he must protect this child. The dignified prince has such compulsion. Found it? One is an old man and the other is a little kid. It's better this way. With our ability, I'm afraid it's difficult to catch the young and strong ones. One is old and the other is young. Although the money we catch is less, the risk is also much less. Yes, go ahead, catch them, and we'll share the money equally. When the old man took the child's arm, he saw a group of homeless-looking men suddenly running towards the deserted corner. Who are you? Do you know who I am? Get out of here. The prince looked ugly. Even though he was not very powerful, he was still more than enough to deal with a group of ordinary homeless people. But when he stretched out his hand and wanted to use the magical power from the outside world, he was stunned. Nothing. Magic. Fighting. The power of a cultivator? Doesn't exist at all. There is a difference of more than 200 words, please, and it will be refreshed later. I will not forget it this time. There is a difference of more than 200 words. I will refresh it later. It will be fine. I won't forget it this time. It's more than 200 words short. Just wait until the original version is refreshed, and I won't forget it this time. It's more than 200 words short. I'll just refresh the original version later, and it won't be forgotten this time. I will forget it's more than 200 words short. I'll refresh it later when the official version is available. I won't forget it this time, it's more than 200 words short. I'll wait a minute, it's more than 200 words short. I'll refresh it later. Okay, I won't forget it this time, it's more than 200 words short. I'll just refresh the original version later. Oh, I won't forget it this time, it's more than 200 words short. I'll just refresh the original version later. Oh, I won't forget it this time, it's more than 200 words short. I'll just refresh the original version later. I won't forget it this time, I'll just refresh the original version. I won't forget it this time, off more than 200 words. Just wait for the official version to be refreshed later. I won't forget it this time, it's more than 200 words short, it's more than 200 words short. Just wait for the official version to be refreshed later. I won't forget it this time, it's more than 200 words short. Just wait until the original version is refreshed. I won't forget it this time, I'll wait until the original version is refreshed. It will be fine, I won't forget it this time. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2618. Tisk, tisk, beating the prince. If this was done to the outside world, I'm afraid their lives would be at risk. Jia Yan looked at the scene in front of him calmly. Ah! You are so brave. The prince was roaring, but he actually didn't do anything like running away. Instead, he rushed forward, held the child in his arms, and guarded him tightly. Oh, this prince is actually a wonderful person. Even though he is a high-ranking person, he is still untainted? No, it should be said that people with complicated human nature and full of evil may also act to protect young children. Jia Yan continued to watch. Afterwards, the prince was covered in scars. Okay, this old guy is no longer good. Capture him and sell him to those merchants. Even if they can no longer be slaves, they can still release their energy and become commodities for those merchants. Several men stopped, sneered and went to catch the old man. Don't hit Grandpa, you bad guy. The kid yelled. Jia Yan continued to watch without any intention of taking action. Haha, this child is quite interesting. People who have just arrived in the underworld are like this. They are arrogant, and they will be changed by the environment in a short time. But, you child, I am afraid that you will not be able to wait for that day. For those who have just arrived in the underworld, your power is at its strongest, so you will all be captured and sold by us today. Several men laughed and then grabbed the boy's arm. Puff. Suddenly, the boy seemed like a different person. He smiled ferociously, like an evil ghost, with long claws that cut the man who captured him in half with one claw. What? What? Isn't this child a newcomer to the underworld? Everyone was shocked and backed away. Jia Yan didn't have too many surprises. When he arrived here, he felt that there was something wrong with this child. The energy is much stronger than other lonely ghosts in the underworld. GGG, you are so stupid. The methods used by lonely ghosts to devour each other are almost all deceptions. How can you still be fooled? How could a child appear in such a remote place? The childlike evil spirit's eyes were blood red, and he rushed forward. After a few moves, he cut the men who captured them in half. Then he opened his mouth like a whale, enlarging it to 5 or 6 times, and killed the man just now. The dead men turned into black spots of light and swallowed them into their mouths. These black light spots belong to Jia Yan's black god power. In this place created only by Jia Yan, the energy is only the power of the black god, that is, his energy. Aha! The old prince covered his forehead and climbed up from the ground. There was nothing around him except the boy looking at him with wide eyes. It's you. What's going on? Where are the people who attacked us just now? Grandpa, wake up. A master came just now and beat them away. We are rescued, the little boy said pitifully. Master, hey, where is this place? Hey, why are you laughing? The prince was first surprised to see where this place was, and then when he looked at the little boy, he felt that he was smiling strangely. Bah! Bah! The little boy took an old leg from nowhere and took a bite, because it's delicious. Grandpa, aren't you happy to eat something delicious? The old prince felt the cold air gurgling down his forehead. He was so frightened that he pushed his hands to the ground, trying to jump away from where he was. The beating only lasted for a while. He was horrified to find that his lower body had disappeared. Isn't the old leg in the child's hand his own? You. Wow, it's so delicious. Grandpa, the spirits of those who have just died are the most delicious. I still want to eat it. Grandpa, please give me your head. The little boy rushed forward with a grin. The old man yelled and held his head. Puff. But something strange happened. I saw a strong and powerful hand, lightly grabbing the little boy's neck, pinning him directly to the ground, roaring randomly, but unable to move. The old prince felt that he should have been rescued and quickly raised his head. Thank you so much for saving your life, Lord Marshal Jiayan. The old prince is not a fool. He roughly guessed where he had arrived. After all, he was so seriously ill before and then arrived here strangely, indicating that he should be dead. This is supposed to be a world of death. But if it was a world of death, why did I see this extremely familiar face? Marshal Jiayan? Believe in the invincible and strongest man from the Black Kingdom. Could he have died too? Prince of Dalan Kingdom, right. Jiayan looked at him with a smile. His attitude was pretty good. No matter from any angle, this prince does not seem to be a bad person. And that he is willing to come to Xinhe country to surrender shows that he must still care about the country and the people. That is a person whose life should not be cut off. It's nothing if you save it. Ho 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 ho. The little boy who was pinched by Jiayan turned into black ghost mist on the ground, screaming in an extremely terrifying way. But no matter how much he screamed or howled, he just couldn't break free from the arm that held his neck tightly. Yes, I am the Prince of Dalan Kingdom. Thanks to the Marshal, you can still recognize me, but, Marshal, where is this place? The old prince tremblingly supported his body and looked at the boy controlled by Jiayan in a daze. Here? Forget it, don't worry about what is here. Anyway, let me ask you, do you want to live? Jiayan originally wanted to explain a few words, but after thinking about it, he decided not to use it. I'm afraid it would be hard for people to believe this kind of thing even if it was explained. It would be better not to explain it and just treat it as a dream after waking up. Live. Can I still live? Yes, Marshal Jiayan, I do. I haven't completed my country's surrender to Xinhe country, and I still want to live. That's good. Jiayan calmly pressed his fingers, and saw the black figure of the boy on the ground disappear, turning into spots and becoming a part of this world. How do we do that? The prince lost his lower body and was a little at a loss. Over there, the two over there are newcomers. Grasp. Eating their flesh and blood, maybe we will have a good harvest, ha ha ha. At this moment, just when Jiayan was about to answer something, a large number of people who looked like ordinary people from the underworld leaped toward them in the distance, holding various weapons. For the soul-like people here, the new souls are like a great food. On the contrary, don't think that those souls who have established a foothold are easy to deal with. Those who can survive have their own survival skills, but they are difficult to deal with. Most of the newly arrived souls were eaten by local souls. These guys are here again. Don't worry. Jiayan shook his head. It seems that as the creator, I have neglected the management of this place too much. In the future, I need to pay more attention to this place. Because no matter what, these people living here can be regarded as his people. Buzz. With Jiayan as the center, a huge wave of power spread out. The pure and incomparable black power filled the entire area. It was like a long drought followed by sweet rain. The concentration of power in this vast area increased by several degrees. However, those sole residents of the underworld who came did not enjoy much good power. Because a little bit of power is food, but when the power reaches a certain level, it becomes a weapon, not something delicious. Puff. Just like a goddess scattering flowers, when a large amount of power affected them, these souls didn't even have time to scream and dissipated directly into the air. But these soul-like residents were smiling when they died. Because they have been in the underworld for so long, they feel the feeling of being full for the first time. For them, this is considered a full meal and they are extremely happy. Soon, the surrounding area turned into a vacuum, and even the trees, houses, and a large amount of land in the area disappeared. Jia Yan and the others stood in an empty place. This. The prince no longer knew what he was seeing now, as if he was dreaming. Okay, Your Majesty Prince, let's go back. You can't die yet. Jia Yan smiled, flicked his arm, and a black force enveloped the prince, and then he took a step forward. Ping. There was a sound like something was breaking, and a crack appeared on the land. Then Jia Yan took the prince out. The crack seemed to be impatient, and it healed in less than a moment when he and the prince left. To this world, the two worlds are like the worlds of life and death, and only gods can break the barriers. Naturally, after Jia Yan left, the world automatically separated the two realms. Buzz. In the marshal's mansion. Jia Yan's whole body was filled with excitement. Then he opened his eyes calmly. Old prince, come back. He indifferently pointed the palm of his hand at the old prince on the ground and slapped him. Immediately, the old prince's body emitted a little brilliance and was shrouded in white light. It's really troublesome to have to help him treat his heart disease. Jia Yan shook his head helplessly, placing his palms in the air over the old prince's body, and energy continued to pour down. The power of the black god represents destruction, but at the same time, destruction also represents new life. Jia Yan was quick and neat, using his own energy to perform surgery on the old prince's body. After the surgery, he immediately used his strength to repair it. In other words, Jia Yan once again played the role of healing gods. Resurrection from the dead. I'm afraid that even if a god system is really born in this world, no god can do this. Of course, Jia Yan can only do this in the world he helped create. If he goes to the outside world, death is death. God knows if there is a space after death in the normal world. After a moment, Jia Yan retracted his palm. Poof. Poof. The old prince, who had long been stiff and dead on the ground, gradually warmed up his whole body and his heart beat from time to time. Not long after, his body became the body temperature of a normal person, and his vitality index also directly reached the state of an ordinary person. Puff puff puff. Jia Yan's repaired big heart began to continuously deliver fresh blood to the body's functions. Ahem. The old prince suddenly coughed lightly, and then suddenly opened his eyes. He looked around with great suspicion, and then saw Jia Yan sitting back in his chair, Gu Jingbuobo looking at him. Marshal Jia Yan. Thank you Marshal Yan for saving your life. The old prince found that his hands and feet were strong again, so he quickly stood up and bowed to Jia Yan. Oh. I just used some rescue methods. It's just a trivial matter and not worth mentioning. Rescue means. Are you going to? The old prince looked up and looked at Jia Yan with some surprise. After realizing that Jia Yan seemed to be telling himself that he didn't feel the slightest bit about going to that kind of place, he quickly shut his mouth. This matter is too strange. How dare he say it in front of Jia Yan? Besides, even if the scene just now was just a dream or a hallucination after death, he was definitely saved by Jia Yan. People said that this was his own rescue method, but the method used by the dignified Marshal Jia Yan could not be ordinary, it might be extraordinary. As for the afterlife, Jia Yan might have used some unique method to help him escape, but Marshal Jia Yan himself didn't understand it. In short, it is certain that he was saved by Lord Jia Yan. In any case, I would like to thank Marshal Jia Yan, Prince of Dalian State. I would like to express my gratitude to you. In addition, Dalian State is willing to accept more conditions from Xinhe State. The old marshal directly stated the limit of his country's surrender. Unexpectedly, Jia Yan raised his palm. No, you are very good. I think it would be good for you to manage the Dalian kingdom. I am very satisfied with your conduct as a person. Do you know what I mean? Manage. I come. This sentence means. Heard this. There are still 300 words left, and the official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. Another 300 words are missing. The official version will be refreshed in a few minutes. Thank you everyone for supporting the official version. If you like Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito, please collect it. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito Shuhei Pavilion is updated the fastest. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2619. The matter in the underworld was not told to Edisha until she was called back to the office by Jia Yan. Afterwards, Edisha was just as Jia Yan imagined, and she directly asked to go there to play, but unfortunately Jia Yan declined. To be honest, it's possible to go to that kind of place, but it's hard to get any benefits, at least not for the time being. Wow, what a world designed by Edisha. Edisha was at her small table, tearing open bags of snacks while marveling. Jia Yan stared at her. Somewhat helplessly, Jia Yan allowed the little kid to eat snacks after she was injured. He probably couldn't bear it for a while. Unexpectedly, Edisha used chicken feathers as arrows, and then she became more and more violent and became desperate to eat them. Now it was hard to get rid of the water, and it would be a slap in the face to stop her from eating snacks, so Jia Yan could only watch helplessly. It's true that you participated in the design of this underworld, but the world we live in now also has your design, Jia Yan reminded her. It's different. The underworld was designed by Edisha herself. This world was secretly planted by Edisha and not hers. Edisha shook her head seriously in denial. It's not bad to think so. Editha's involvement and modifications in this world are said to be a lot, but in fact they are several levels behind compared to the host machine at White Dolphin. And the host that is currently maintaining and operating this world is also the host from the White Dolphin. To Edisha, it is an enemy-like existence. Therefore, it is natural for Edisha to say that she was not involved in the design of this world. The underworld is different. Although it is also under the system framework of this world, it is also a brand new world infrastructure, so it is completely understandable that Editha will have different moods. Okay, next time I'm free, I'll take you there and teach you how to break the barriers between the two worlds. Then you can maintain that underworld by yourself. Okay. Edisha happily grabbed a handful of snacks and stuffed them into her little mouth, which was full of food. Edisha, have you ever heard that injured people will feel uncomfortable if they eat too many snacks? No, Edisha is not a fool. Master Jia Yan, please don't lie to me. Edisha shook her head, saying she didn't want to be deceived by Jia Yan. Jia Yan shut his mouth helplessly. This little guy is really hard to deceive, because she has much more knowledge than her master. In the days that followed, a similar pattern gradually followed. After the prince returned, the surrender process quickly entered into a smooth process because of Jia Yan's personal order. During this process, the prince received considerable status and respect. After all, it was Master Jia Yan who personally ordered him to be treated well. Regardless of whether he was the prince of the country or not, he still had a bright future. No one dared to look down on him. Moreover, Jia Yan had already said when those departments were carrying out the task of accepting surrendered countries that they believed that even if the black countries were victorious, their territory was still far inferior to those of the countries that surrendered. If these countries harbored evil intentions, they might it will leave the root of the destruction of the Shinkuro kingdom in the future. Therefore, when accepting surrender from others, you should try your best to have a good attitude, because such a small thing will make the whole country hate you, and that is the stupidest thing. The attitude of these departments has actually been good because of Jia Yan's words. Thank you so much, Marshal Jia Yan. I am now alone and have returned to my country, no, to the Dalan area. Well, wait carefully after you go back, and your appointment letter will come to you soon. Thank you, Mr. Jia Yan. On this day, the prince, who had completed all the formalities, came to Jia Yan's marshal's mansion. Because he was someone who had been here before, he was received by Jia Yan after the people in the marshal's mansion reported it. In this interview, the escort the old prince brought with him had achieved a high status. At least the old prince was quite polite to him. Because this is the person who saved the old prince, how can he not be respected? After seeing off the contented old prince, Jia Yan looked at the calendar and clock on the wall. Edisha. Ah. During the whole process, Edisha, who didn't even look at the old prince and was hiding alone in the small table, secretly stuffing snacks, raised her little head because of Jia Yan's sudden call. I saw that her little mouth was full of snack fragments, and she was eating like a cat with a colorful face. Jia Yan shook his head and sighed, and then said, "Your injury is almost healed, and Xiaolin's strength must have improved. Go call her, and we will go to the starry sky to have a look right away." Okay, Edisha is so suffocated. Edisha jumped up and down. Xiaolin sighed. After many days of hard work, she felt that her strength had entered a certain bottleneck period. Edisha said last time that she doesn't have any bottlenecks in her cultivation. She doesn't even know what a bottleneck is. Compared with her, I already have bottlenecks with such strength. The gap between us is actually so big. How can I go to the stars with my brother and the others? I'm not even strong enough. While thinking about it, A small head appeared on Jialin's head. Jialin. Wow. Jialin was in a hermitage room, a completely sealed place, when someone suddenly appeared. Anyone would be shocked, so she was so frightened that she peed and fell off the chair. Is it Adisha? Don't you even know how to knock on the door? You scared me to death. It turned out that Adisha flew into her room. As for how she entered the place from outside the sealed room, Jialin had no doubt that she could do it, because Adisha had used a similar method to bring her into the room. He traveled to many places with her. He, Jialin is a coward. Adisha smiled and pointed at Jialin, only finding it funny. As a big person like me, when I came in front of Jialin from outside, I couldn't even feel what the hell this practice was. What nonsense are you talking about? Everyone would be shocked. Okay. Tell me, why are you here? You know, I felt a breakthrough just now, and you interrupted me. How are you going to compensate me? Jialin almost went berserk. I don't want to disturb you. If you ignore Adisha during cultivation, Adisha will not treat you as a friend. Adisha pouted. Although she has met many people on this planet, and even a small number of people from the capital of the Black Country have met her, lovely Disha's best friend is still Jialin. Recently, Jialin started to practice, and it was like turning her back on others, which made Adisha so angry that she almost went crazy. Okay, Adisha, don't be angry. My sister treats you as a friend. Isn't she practicing recently? When Jialin saw it, she knew that the little guy was angry. Your brother asked you to come over. Let's fly a spaceship to space together. Do you want to go or not? After Adisha dropped these words, her figure flickered and she disappeared. To space. Great, I'm going. On Jialin's side, she was about to scream. She quickly packed her things, took her small bag and ran to Jia Yan's office. I'm coming back. Let's fly the spaceship quickly and don't let Jialin sit on it. Adisha took the lead and returned to the office, pouting and asking Jia Yan to fly the spaceship. There must have been another quarrel. Jia Yan smiled and then stood up. Anyway, it's just two kids quarreling, so don't worry about it. But if we go over now, the time is just right. The two of them walked towards the scientific research office one after the other. Wait for me, I'm coming. It didn't take long for Jialin to catch up. Why do you bring so much stuff? Adisha stared at Jialin's small bag, a little confused. There's food in it, the dried fish you like, beans, melon seeds, potato chips. Wow, Jialin, did you bring this for me? You're so nice. So are we getting along? It's done, he. Adisha has about the same emotional capacity as an ordinary little kid, and she can fall out of love faster than flipping through a book. No, she and Jialin got along right away because of some snacks. Jia Yan looked at the two children, smiled slightly, and then entered the scientific research laboratory. How is the progress of the new research on the spacecraft? Jia Yan came to the scientist who looked like Einstein and asked. Haha, Mr. Jia Yan, you are here. The data from your previous space missions are very useful to us. We have modified a lot of places based on the data. I wonder if Marshal Jia Yan is here this time. Are you going to do it again? Into space. Good. Well, please let us test the machine, and then you can go to space. Jia Yan stopped this Einstein-like scientist from taking action. By the way, you can ask them to transport more food and daily necessities on the spacecraft. This time we will go directly to other planets. Ah! A man like Einstein was stunned. His spaceship has not yet entered the final stage. Let alone a long voyage, even if it is sailing within the vicinity of the planet, it seems to be almost interesting. At least it is unstable. Is he going to take it to other planets? Time is a bit too tight. Don't worry, Even if we don't have the spaceship, we still have the ability to survive in the starry sky. Jia Yan smiled and told the scientist to relax. That's right, well, I'll go and let them prepare it. Since the adults are preparing to sail away, it just so happens that I can load the new test data so that we can come back for observation next time. The Marshal is not afraid of dangerous issues, so what can he say? The scientist quickly changed his original intention and asked his colleagues and partners below to start comprehensive renovations and preparations. Brother. At this moment, after listening for a long time, Jia Lin suddenly realized what she was saying and walked up to Jia Yan. She was silent and stunned. What's wrong? Did we really just go to the alien planet like this? Jia Lin was really confused. Didn't you agree to go out for a while? She thought she would wander in the starry sky for a while like last time. Unexpectedly, he was directly preparing to go to other planets. I wasn't even mentally prepared. If you are afraid, then just stay this time. Jia Yan shook his head lightly. No, I'm not afraid, but I'm not mentally prepared at all. Jia Lin was startled and quickly explained. If you were fighting the enemy, do you think the enemy would give you time to prepare? This, okay, brother, I'm going with you. Can you bring your mobile phone? At least I have a mobile phone to play on the road. There is a very interesting game recently. Jia Yan looked at her dumbfounded and nodded, take it with you. Wow, Jia Lin, you are a bad guy. If you have interesting games you don't tell me, I want to play them too. It's a few hundred words short, it will be refreshed in half an hour. She thought she would wander in the starry sky for a while like last time. Unexpectedly, he was directly preparing to go to other planets. I wasn't even mentally prepared. If you are afraid, then just stay this time. Jia Yan shook his head lightly. No, I'm not afraid, but I'm not mentally prepared at all. Jia Lin was startled and quickly explained. If you were fighting the enemy, do you think the enemy would give you time to prepare? This, okay, brother, I'm going with you. Can you bring your mobile phone? At least I have a mobile phone to play on the road. There is a very interesting game recently. Jia Yan looked at her dumbfounded and nodded, take it with you. Wow, Jia Lin, you are a bad guy. If you have interesting games you don't tell me, I want to play them too. It's a few hundred words short, it will be refreshed in half an hour. She thought she would wander in the starry sky for a while like last time. Unexpectedly, he was directly preparing to go to other planets. I wasn't even mentally prepared. If you are afraid, then just stay this time. Jia Yan shook his head lightly. No, I'm not afraid, but I'm not mentally prepared at all. Jia Lin was startled and quickly explained. If you were fighting the enemy, do you think the enemy would give you time to prepare? This, okay, brother, I'm going with you. Can you bring your mobile phone? At least I have a mobile phone to play on the road. There is a very interesting game recently. Jia Yan looked at her dumbfounded and nodded, take it with you. Wow, Jia Lin, you are a bad guy. If you have interesting games you don't tell me, I want to play them too. It's a few hundred words short, it will be refreshed in half an hour. She thought she would wander in the starry sky for a while like last time. Unexpectedly, he was directly preparing to go to other planets. I wasn't even mentally prepared. If you are afraid, then just stay this time. Jia Yan shook his head lightly. No, I'm not afraid, but I'm not mentally prepared at all. Jia Lin was startled and quickly explained. If you were fighting the enemy, do you think the enemy would give you time to prepare? This, okay, brother, I'm going with you. Can you bring your mobile phone? At least I have a mobile phone to play on the road. There is a very interesting game recently. Jia Yan looked at her dumbfounded and nodded, take it with you. Wow, Jialin, you are a bad guy. If you have interesting games you don't tell me, I want to play them too. It's a few hundred words short, it will be refreshed in half an hour. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2620. Sorry, yesterday, for the first time, several keyboards had problems together, so there was no way to replace them by you took another day off. Woo. Jialin, who was riding in the spaceship, felt that her entire body was pressed against the seat. This spacecraft is said to belong to aliens, but the overload pressure during liftoff has not been eliminated, so it must be very primitive. Moreover, when Jia Yan opened the spacecraft, he took off at super high speed regardless of his health. Jia Lin is already very strong, but under such a terrifying overload, she is still under tremendous pressure. But she turned her head and looked at it, and suddenly she was almost out of breath. It turned out that the initiator's brother was operating the spaceship as if nothing had happened, and the same was true for Adisha on the side. She even looked at Jia Lin with a smile, opened the flattened snack bag, took out a stick of French fries, and put it in. Chew it in your mouth. This is obviously because he is angry with himself. Call. Not long after, the spacecraft finally ascended into space, and its speed gradually stabilized, and the huge overload pressure also reduced a lot. Adisha, you are so bad. Are you bullying me for not being able to resist overload pressure? No, Adisha doesn't have it. Aditha's big eyes glanced wildly, as if she was trying to make excuses. You have it, huh? Next time I won't treat you to food, and I won't let you play games. Jia Lin groaned angrily. No, I won't dare to do it next time. Adisha quickly begged Jia Lin for mercy. You know, when Jia Lin boasted to her that there was a new game to play, she was already greedy in her heart. I don't know if this game is 1000th as fun as the games produced by our own console. If it is 1000th as fun, it would be great fun. Adisha was clearly once a smart brain, but she was quite interested in games like this. Jia Yan didn't care how the two little kids were playing around. He controlled the spacecraft, looked at the star map he grabbed last time, carefully observed the position in the starry sky, and flew towards that direction. It has to be said that before the strength exceeds the venerable level, such a spaceship is quite helpful. At least it does not consume one's own strength to fly. Xiaolin, Adisha, you can play, but you must practice well in the process. I'm afraid it will take half a month to pass this time. During this half month, I order you to practice better than now. At a higher level, if you don't understand anything, you can ask me at any time, but if you don't do it, I will not allow you to get off the spacecraft and visit that planet in the future until you reach a higher level of cultivation. Jia Yan suddenly interrupted. Just these words, like a bolt from the blue, shocked both Adisha and Jia Lin. You know, they have all thought about traveling to another planet for a long time, and it has even gradually become their dream. Now Jia Yan has set rules and regulations on how to avoid frightening the two of them. No. I have practiced hard. Anyway, I have reached the standard for promotion. Jia Lin wanted to refute something, but thinking that she was about to be promoted, she let out a long sigh of relief and agreed to this request. And she agreed, but Adisa was alone and weak, without even an ally to resist. Snap! She dropped the snack bag in her little hand, as if she had heard bad news. Fortunately, Jia Lin caught the snack bag with quick eyes and hands. No, Eddie doesn't want to practice. It's not fair since Eddie is so strong. Adisha was about to cry. It's hard to imagine that this would be a genius strategist who is extremely feared by all the major powers on the planet. But her coquettish behavior had no effect on Jia Yan. Adisha, there will be times when I'm destined to be unable to take care of you on that planet. In that case, if you can't even protect yourself, who will protect Xiaolin? Jia Yangxiao reasoned. Oh, yes, Jialin will die if she has no one to take care of her. If you die, you won't be able to move. It's not fun at all if you can't move. Adisha suddenly looked at Jialin again. Jialin's face was confused. Can you speak? As you talk, are you talking about me to death? Can't move? You won't move. She didn't know what words to use to retort. It was the first time she heard such fresh and refined Bien lowered her own words, and it was difficult for her to form words to retaliate. Oh, forget it. Aditha is practicing hard. Jialin, don't die. It wouldn't be cute. Jialin rolled her eyes and didn't want to say anything anymore. It's up to you, whatever you want to say. Anyway, she believed that if her brother followed him, she would not be in danger. In the girl's young mind, her brother was the strongest in the world, even if he went to an alien planet. She guessed this right. Jia Yan's strength is truly invincible even in the starry sky. But the prerequisite for invincibility is to deal with people in this world. If you meet the guys from the White Dolphin series, who is stronger or weaker will depend on how much power they each grab in this world. Of course, Jia Yan believes that they have not shown their uniqueness yet, and it is unknown whether the White Dolphins and others are in this area. Presumably, the two sides will not meet so soon. But that time is not too far away. As for letting Edisha practice, it is a matter of course. She must have the ability to protect herself. Wow, it's fun. The power enters the body by itself. Edisha and Jialin started practicing, and soon Edisha screamed in surprise from her seat. This voice made Jiali beside her look helplessly. Well, your cultivation talent is great and you are a genius, but it's fine if you know it yourself. Why do you say it to attack others? Jialin was helpless, and there was no way to solve the problem of her cultivation talent for Jia Yan. The indigenous people of this world naturally have obstacles. As the person who created this world, he has no way to solve this problem. However, Jia Lin's talent was pretty good, and Jia Yan had already given her some guidance. In addition, she was at the threshold of a breakthrough in her cultivation. It didn't take long for her to reach the threshold of breakthrough. Puff. Everything happens naturally and smoothly. There was no big fuss, I broke through immediately. Okay, you have already reached the advanced level of Earth. You just need to break through and you will become a master of heaven level. At that level, you will be a high-ranking master in Xinhe Kingdom. Jia Yan looked at Jia Lin calmly and smiled. Well, I've reached a high level at the Earth level, he. Jia Lin was extremely happy. She knows that her talent and strength cannot be compared with Edisha or Jia Yan, but this is compared with these two incredible figures, but compared with those masters in the Xinhe Kingdom, their training speed is already unimaginably terrifying. With strength. As long as he breaks through the Earth level and reaches the heaven level, he might be able to open the eyes of those masters. Apart from my brother and the two of them, who has ever seen a teenage heaven level master? Oh, in planet parlance, he is a first-class master? Jia Yan couldn't understand Jia Lin's excitement. Just like Aditha's breakthrough, it is also difficult to understand for Jia Yan. Such low-level things have long passed in the past for him. People who have cultivated to these levels are all ants to him. Even their sizes seem to be about the same to him, so there is no excitement. Such emotions are born. Time flies by. In the past few days, Edisha and Jia Lin have been immersed in cultivation. Although Jia Lin made a breakthrough, Edisha was also practicing. It was boring for her to do it alone, so she obediently chose to practice with Edisha. Finally, on the 10th day after the spacecraft was launched, Edisha let out a loud roar. Breakthrough! Bang! The entire spacecraft was shaken. As Jia Lin watched in horror, Edisha's small fist released a powerful light and tried to smash the spacecraft. If it's smashed, we'll have to fly by ourselves. Jia Yan's voice came out at the right time, causing Adisha's enthusiasm to disappear. Oh, ah, 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 Adisha needs to go out, open the door. Aditha screamed, trying to jump. Jia Yan reluctantly opened the hatch of the spacecraft, and Adisha couldn't wait to fly out. I saw the little guy using his fist in the starry sky, and the energy exploded, smashing around in the starry sky. This is... Jia Lin looked on dumbfounded. It's nothing. She ate too much energy before. This energy gave her room to break through, but there is still a lot left. After the breakthrough, she will vent it out. It is good to keep it. Maybe it will be the nourishment for the next breakthrough. But she doesn't know how to hold it back. Jia Yan commented calmly. Adisha is a human being transformed by intelligence and brain. To put it bluntly, she has zero experience in terms of character and cultivation path. It's one thing for her to understand everything in her heart, just like watching a movie. How can she understand the emotions and thoughts of the people in the movie if she's not in it? This is the case with Adisha. When it came to her own cultivation, because there were so many things going smoothly, she couldn't even hold back her strength. But it doesn't matter, Jia Yan knows that this is a necessary process. If energy is wasted, what does it matter? At worst, I'll grab it and give it to her in the future. What kind of power does Adisha have now? Jia Lin asked curiously. The Venerable has reached the middle level. What level of power is the middle level of the Venerable? Jia Lin didn't understand the power above the heaven level. Jia Yan thought for a while and decided to tell her because it was possible to encounter a Venerable level existence in the starry sky outside. The Venerable level is the most powerful force in this world. You are now at the earth level, you know. Above the earth level is the heaven level. After the heaven level, there is the starry sky level. After the starry sky level, there is the venerable level. Ah! Jia Lin was stunned. She didn't know that from the perspective of a little expert on her own planet, the world was so vast. Even the earth level ones are not weak anymore, but if you look at the real starry sky masters, are they weak? The first class expert level on a planet like the Tian level is actually not that strong. There is the starry sky level above it. After the starry sky level, there is the highest level, the venerable level. Jia Lin suddenly felt that the world was very big, so big that she felt a little frightened. Then, brother, is Adisha an intermediate level venerable? Is she already very strong? What about you, are you also an intermediate level venerable? Jia Lin already knows how strong little Adisha, who is only 5 years old, is. After the shock in her heart, she thought of her brother. Although it looked like her brother was stronger than Adisha, after she knew how powerful Adisha was, she didn't dare to ask her brother directly, for fear that she would be unhappy if she asked the wrong question. Haha, Adita's current strength is enough to sweep across some planets, but she is still not close to the strongest person in this world. As for your brother, Jia Yan smiled mysteriously, you can guess for yourself. After he finished speaking, he stopped replying to Jia Lin's words. The current strength of his body is naturally not strong enough, that is, it is only around the peak of the venerable level. But the peak strength of the Lord level must be regarded as a semi-star level in this world. Even if it is thrown into the normal starry sky of the Milky Way outside, with the combat power of this body and the experience of his body domain master level, ordinary half-stars can't beat them. So if Jia Yan were to fight against a powerful local presence, he would definitely win. The only thing that matters is the white god system on the white dolphin side. Next, the head-on confrontation between me and him begins. I don't know what the planet I'm going to look like will be like, and whether it will allow me to gain more power in the process of being convinced. The dispute between Jia Yan and the white dolphin was about the various powers of this world. After collecting them, he realized the seeds of the world, and finally captured each other's energy to understand it. It was possible for the two powerful men with subspace talents to merge with each other. Sex is the greatest, and after mutual understanding, their power will go even further. To put it bluntly, it's like devouring. The world of the strong is so cruel. Although not everyone uses the method of devouring similar strong men to get promoted, at least this white dolphin is preparing to use this method. It just so happened that although Jia Yan didn't like to deal with others in this way, he had no choice but to take advantage of others to frame him. In turn, it devours him, thereby promoting himself to a stronger level. Wow, ha ha ha. Adisha is so annoying. Aditha laughed and caught up with the spacecraft from behind. She was so excited. As a creature with transformed intelligence and brain, she has a lot of knowledge, but with so much knowledge, it is not as interesting as becoming powerful herself. After Adisha became alive, what she liked most was to feel the true meaning of the word life. Becoming a strong person, pure physical strength, for her, is the thing that makes her feel the word life the most, so she can experience the process of becoming stronger, and she can also cause such huge damage. Strength, how could you not be happy? Congratulations, Adisha. Jialin was truly happy for her. Adisha was about to laugh when she suddenly noticed many plastic bags on the ground. She was completely confused. Jialin looked in the direction Adisha was looking, and then she felt embarrassed. Haha, Adisha, aren't you practicing? Sister, I see that you are practicing in high spirits. I'm hungry again, so. Adisha looked ugly. Wow, Jialin, you bastard. Give me back my snacks. Please remember the first domain name of this book.